Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another episode of the Suffolk Non-League Show. Once again, we are live across YouTube, Facebook, and for the first time, Twitch. Very exciting news. It's a very big update for us. Obviously, with the videos no longer being able to be viewable and watched on Twitter, we had to explore into other avenues, and Twitch is now alive and ready to go. So if you are one of those who are watching on Twitch, drop us a comment down below. Say hello. Get involved in tonight's show. Obviously, I'm James, and once again, I am joined by my colleague and good friend, Mr. Adam Wade. Sir, how are you? How has your week been?
Well, it's been a lovely week. Yeah, not been too bad at all, has it?
No, it's been all right. It's been okay. I have to admit, today's not been the best day and the best build up towards tonight's live show, as everyone's seen from my Twitter post earlier on. It's been an almighty day, but the car is fixed, the tire is done, headache is well and truly gone, and I am ready and raring to go for tonight's show. So,
did you
get out tomorrow? Sorry,
did you get out and change the tire yourself? Do actual man jobs?
No, of course not.
Get the car jack out. I can't really imagine you getting your hands greasy.
Nah, that's not my thing. It's not my thing. I pay other people to do that stuff. That's not for me.
Too worried about your fingernails.
Yeah, definitely. But so everything all good with you then, mate?
Yeah, very good indeed. Just want to put an apology out to Sidekick, our sponsors, to me for a second week not having a green screen. Sidekick were actually kind enough to sponsor us and enabling us to have this effect behind us. We didn't really say too much about it. We put the sponsor in at the time. But my computer has given up. I've ordered a new rig and it's not coming till tomorrow. So last couple of weeks, I've just had to be on my work laptop, which doesn't have a graphics card and therefore can't actually handle my background.
Right.
So I've just got this green nothingness behind me. So apologies for us not looking and matching up. It's all going to look a little bit wonky tonight, but we'll be fine.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I just want to say before we get too far into tonight's show, tonight's show and tonight's episode is dedicated to Alfie Cook and his family and friends. Sadly, Alfie passed away recently. A man known throughout non-league football in Suffolk. It's not somebody I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, but you could tell by the reaction online via social media this week, he was somebody who is well thought of and well remembered within the Suffolk non-league community, especially with Crane Sports and of their touching tribute to him over on Twitter this week. And I promised a few people that we would dedicate tonight's show towards Alfie. So I said, hopefully friends and family are doing as well as possibly can be, and everyone connected towards the clubs that Alfie was a part of is doing all right. And yeah, it's horrible news to kind of start the show off. But yeah, tonight's show is dedicated towards Alfie. Before we get too far into the show, though, as always, just a very quick word from our sponsors. A massive thank you to all of our sponsors on the Suffolk Non-League Show, Starting and Lock, Matchday Marketing, GBS, Your Shirts, and Clabber Creative. GBS are a family-run construction company in Ipswich operating nationwide with over 30 years' experience, offering fire protection, diamond drilling, commercial building, health and safety, and asbestos removal. Starling and Lock, self-employed electrician in the Stowmarket and Suffolk area since 1989, offering domestic work and certificates for people buying and selling houses. An NIC/EIC member. Matchday Marketing, sports marketing and branding company, helping enhance the image and profile of grassroots and non-league clubs at a very low cost, utilising over 20 plus years in the game. Your Shirts, eye-catching, professional-looking garments for your business, team, club or organisation with a range of printing methods to cover all individual needs. Clabber Creative is a creative agency based in Framlingham, Suffolk, offering fully managed football club websites. They are about giving your club a professional image and the ongoing support to maintain it. Links for all of these companies will be in the description below. Go and check them out and tell them that DeeJam has sent you. As always, massive thank you to all of our sponsors for making sure the programme is what it is today and how it looks and feels. We really do appreciate every single one of them. We've managed to extend some of these sponsorship deals for another 3 months, which is absolutely superb news for the show and things moving forward. So massive thank you, as I said, to Styling and Lock, Matchday Marketing, GBS, Your Shirts, and Clabber Creative. And as always, we wanted to say a massive thank you to all of our Ko-fi members, everybody who has put one-off donations towards the channel. And we do have rather an updated Patreon member, Scott Egerton. Absolutely massive thank you to Scott for getting involved over on Patreon. It's a monthly way in which you can support the channel. You can cancel at any time from as little as £1 a month. You can put towards a show. Any donations, anything you can contribute towards a show, the upkeep, and just making sure that we can put the continuous improvements into the show is massively, massively appreciated. Adam, before we get everybody's hellos up on the screen, shall we announce our guest for next week? Because it's not something we normally do. We normally save this for the Thursday video, but this next week's one is one that we want to kind of drum up a bit of an interest in and get your questions early. Do you want to announce who we've got coming on the show next week?
Yeah, I want to get people starting to think about their questions from an early point and come prepared, send them in, whatever, really, because it's next week is all about you, and it's going to be very much trying to get things answered that we've all had on our lips and have been speculating on for a very long time. So as things stand, we are going to have the chairman of the Furlough None Leagues coming and representing next week, which is absolutely incredible for ourselves. We are currently in contact with the chairman of the SIL about trying to get a representative on, and we'll make that a separate show entirely when we sort something out for that. But we have confirmed for the 15th we will be having the chairman of the Furlough None coming on and giving his view on everything for what happened over the last couple of years. I've already said, let's speak about the last couple of years and where things are, but let's also really think about looking forward and what fans can look forward to and what they can expect. And I think that'll give us a different view on things, a bit of a different look, and it's going to give us some real honest answers. I look back to when we had Nick on from the FA, and how good that was at providing answers, and I think that very similarly we're going to get the same again. We've had a real focus on the Furlough None the last few weeks. You may have noticed, we spoke obviously last week to Matt. We've got Shane on tonight, and then I think that will just round things off quite nicely. Quite nicely.
I think the key thing for us moving forward is that what we tend to hear is the communications from the leagues to people at clubs. So certain clubs and certain members and players and management will send us the information that's coming from the leagues. What we want to do is remove the middleman and having the leagues coming directly to us to give us a pre-prepared statement or at least an update about what's going on, so we can give you guys the most accurate and up-to-date information as possible. And hopefully this is the first part in us all kind of moving forward into next season and really starting to build up that relationship with the leagues, because we don't want it to be a them versus us and we're just the fan side of things. We want to get that open communication with everyone, because ultimately moving forward, we're all going to need each other. The leagues are going to need us as much as we need them to sort things out and to work things forward, because the next few years are going to be incredibly tricky for a lot of non-league clubs. So to have that conversation, I'm buzzing. I'm really looking forward to next week's show. It should be really good, really entertaining. And as I said, we want you guys to get your questions in. So we'll be posting out throughout the week on social media for you guys to get your questions in. And we just hope as many of you can get involved as is possible.
I think
the aim of the game.
Anyone that hasn't been watching the vlog entries, we normally sort of cover off what we've been doing. I know we didn't do one last week, but the last 2 to 3 weeks has literally been solely focused on getting a better link up between the leagues, the clubs, and ourselves. So the news that we deliver is better, essentially.
Yeah.
And we've been putting a lot of hours into that. And that's all going to hopefully be backed by a new website, which is in production.
Yeah, very true.
That's going to do something pretty special. The guys at Clabber have really helped bring our ideas to life, and we're looking to work at that. So there are exciting times ahead, and next week will be another milestone in that journey.
Yeah, definitely. Spencer says he's loving the hair, by the way, Adam.
Thank you very much. I had that done on the weekend, trimmed the beard up.
I'm just bringing up everybody's messages up on the screen here. Dean Cooper, rest in peace, legend from Alfie. Good evening, Upper Witten, says Ben. Forster off his family. Zach's in the building as well. Slim's here as well. Glenn, Alfie, what a lovely bloke. Fergus, hello, chaps. Kino's trim. # United, says Fergus.
I've got to live up to the name that I'm earning on here, mate.
Evening, is there football coming soon? Well, hopefully we're able to kind of give a little bit of an update on that this evening in a few moments, but we shall see. Stephen Boyle, better get my legal counsel on standby.
I'm on the show, Stephen. Like, come and ask some questions in person.
Yeah, why not? Why not? The link's always available for people if they want it. Peter Hutchins could be interesting. Dan Barnell's already got a question in. Are Furling Unleagues playing friendlies? We'll ask that next time. Nah, I'm waiting for my mug to come through.
I was going to say we're waiting for our non-league show mugs, and then we'll be absolutely well away.
Just on a side note of that, those of you who don't know, we have released our Suffolk non-league show merch, which came out a couple of weeks ago. We've already had quite a few of you signing up and purchasing the hoodies and the mugs. You guys seem to love the hat. The bobble hat is what is the most popular so far.
Best
but it really is at the moment, yeah. But if you want to get any items from the shop, then please feel free to do so. In fact, I'll chuck the link for the website into the chat right now. If anybody wants to go and have a look, see what we have on offer, then feel free to do so. Let's continue getting your messages up on the screen here. Maverick UK is in the building as well. We've got Dean Cooper says, big shout out to Matt Hazelton for him reaching out to me to support my passion. Cheers, pal. Yeah, just I know what you're talking about, Dean. Yeah, really good job on that one, mate. Good evening, ladies. Well, it is International Women's Day, of course. Yes, Tony. Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, we haven't actually really done anything around that. It's bad planning on our part.
No, it's not bad planning. The reason why I haven't done anything for it is because every day is International Women's Day as far as I'm concerned. We will be highlighting things in the near future. And I don't want to be one of those people that just jumps on a bandwagon because it's the day. Like, it's just because it's World Mental Health Day. You don't just talk about mental health on that one day of the year. You talk about mental health every day of the year. You don't talk about Women's Day just one day of the year. It's every day. So we will be having guests on, involved in the leagues, involved in that community in the future. It's just that I just don't want to be one of those people that jumps on a bandwagon and a trend because it's the in thing to do. That's just not my style. And we talked about it last week with Matt. I didn't want to bring Matt on right at the peak of when Sky discovered who he was. No, that's not how I am. That's not how I roll. And that's not what I want to do for here. So, that's, I don't know. Like I said, it's just not for me, but we will be doing things moving forward. We just don't have to. We don't have to go with the trend. Let's just put it that way. Stephen, if you're coming on, massive credit. Yeah, they will be. Hi, Matthew. Hope you're doing all right, mate. Dean, full kit dummy. Dean is absolutely loving our merch, by the way. And links there for you guys. I will be getting some. Just need to convince my mum to get this. As Ben, love that, mate. Absolutely love that. You need to hook me up with a bigger size. Let me know, mate, and we'll try and sort something out for you. Evening, gents. Bring on the gaffer. Shane is going to be coming on in a few moments. Let's get the talking points from this week over and done with, and then we will bring Shane onto the show. I suppose we have to talk about the news that kind of broke today, really. The legend is Ollie Bayliss. Obviously, we had him on last week to talk about all the updates in non-league football. There was a big update today, Adam, involving steps 5 to 7 of the non-league pyramid. Do you want to just kind of talk about what's on the table and what's being potentially talked about? It's quite
Yeah,
a big update.
So we've known now for a couple of seasons that the restructure is a big thing across the leagues, and obviously it will mean a bit of a formation of the pyramid will take a slightly different shape to what it is at the moment. But with the way the last 2 seasons have gone, that's been majorly put in doubt as to how that can even happen. But the FA have come out and said they are considering the possibility of promoting clubs at step 5 to 7 within a restructure, but steps 3 to 4 would be off the table. And I know there was focus to do that anyway within steps 5 to 7 to try and reshape that part of the pyramid up.
Yeah.
Now, last year, those that are aware will know that after being null and void, the ladies' pyramid was still changed and promotions happened via the means of a assessment, really, and you were kind of awarded promotion based on merit. Now that merit came down to these exact criteria: so facilities, club structure, workforce, finance, off-field administration, and on-field playing record. Now the last one is the bit that we're going to focus on just for a couple of moments. This could mean some of the teams from our leagues get promoted.
Yeah.
It's going to be contentious because what on-field playing record are we going to take into account when null and void has happened? Now, on-field playing record was used within the ladies' pyramid, even though the season had been null and void, so it's not out of the question, I guess. And I guess as well, like, this is going to be about teams that want to make that step. It's going to be an application system. So let's see how this unravels. But if it goes ahead and gets the vote and gets ratified, we're going to see changes at football that directly affects Suffolk clubs.
How do you feel about that? Because I think for me, kind of going into a third season of the same leagues, the same teams, we've got to do this all over again. It just would have been a bit of a, oh God, like, I'm excited for football to get going, but you're playing the same teams for a third season in a row. There hasn't been any change for me.
Okay.
I quite like the sound of this because it did need a bit of a shake up. And if we get some teams going up as a result, then superb. I'm all on board for it. I'd need to look into the final details of it a bit more because I'm not entirely sure on how it would work, because there are going to be some teams that if they don't quite meet certain criteria are going to proper kick off. And I'm not just talking like, oh, we're unhappy, let's put a post on social media kind of post. We're going to be talking like legal action kind of things, because there are some clubs who are not going to meet it.
I'd be happy to get absolutely battered by the chat, but I think in the leagues at the moment, people are bored of the same teams doing the same thing each year. And for the sake of the competition, there are teams that they want out. And the teams that they want out want to go up and they want to challenge themselves again. And therefore, that move benefits everyone. The competition needs a bit of a shake just to make it competitive and make it fresh again. I'm going to use the example of Stowmarket because it's the obvious one. So excuse me for picking that. But most people in that league will want Stowmarket out to give other people a crack at it. We know Wroxham are good. We know Norwich United are good, but they will want Stowmarket to be moved on. We're talking about a team that hasn't lost in 2 years in the league. Let's now shake that up and if they want to do it, open the league up a bit again.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna bring Shane in early to the conversation, because when you were saying that, he was shaking his head. So I want to bring Shane in on this. Shane, welcome to the show, first of all.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Why do you disagree? I would love to know your thoughts on that one. When Adam said the league would welcome Stowmarket going up, and you were just like, no. What do you make of it? For as somebody who's at the step 5 level, what's your thoughts?
Well, there's no doubt that Stowmarket are one of the best teams on paper out there. The squad is unbelievable. the class they've got in their team. There's no doubt on that. However, it's proven last year, and they hit stumbling blocks. And I'm sure I could get barraged when we got beat by them, but that's not where I'm heading towards. I'm looking at clubs that maybe not have got the big budget or have got the big name sometimes, and it's not always those big names that get success. And Stowmarket will always be a team towards the top, but are they unbeatable? Are they the best team out there? I think it proved this year there's other teams out there that will always be gunning for them and will always make it more difficult. So I'm not taking anything away from Stowmarket. Stowmarket Town's a club very close to my heart, and Muzzy over there, I said the club is fantastic. However, they're making a rod for their own backs. Everyone wants to beat them, so it's a cup final for everyone. And I'm sure we can talk about it a little while later. But the big drubbing they gave us I felt was a bit too much. Is the way they went for it, and goddamn, I can't wait to play them again. If I'm honest, so see them. Yes, move them on, give the rest of us a chance. But there's other clubs out there that've got teams like Newmarket, Wroxham, Norwich United. They've got some good squads out there, and you can't knock. And I'm sure Muzzy would agree with me that if he was on the show.
No, I think what Adam, because obviously Adam gave Stowe as the example. I think there will be plenty of teams at our level of the game who will want to go up, who feel they deserve to go up.
And Norwich haven't lost in over a year. They're an example.
Yeah.
Wroxham have been about the same position for 2 years.
Yeah,
there's 3 or 4 people that have been absolutely solid, and if you worked it out on a points per game basis, they are just fractions out because of Stowe drawing more games last season and stuff like that. They are just fractions out. So if it was a conversation, it would be the narrowest of decisions, no matter which way it went. But
I think if it's placed over 3 years, you've got to give it to Stowmarket. They've been consistent for 3 years. But for you to say that they should go up automatically now, I think there'd be other clubs in the furlough Prem now would probably be arguing against that. But if we are going over the 3 years, then definitely they deserve that. But I'm sure the FA won't roll it out with 3 years. It will come through some strange format. But right now, everyone's gunning for them. There's lots of good clubs out there. And I do believe the furlough none now has been the most competitive it has been for a very long time, because since I've been involved, everyone said it's not as good as it used to be when it was the Eastern Counties Juicing League. And I have seen players come into that division, and not only ours, but the division below. The quality now has stepped up so high. I don't think you can't get away with inconsistency now, or the belief that you think you're good enough just because your players look good on paper. You really have to grind out results at whatever level now in the furlough none, and it has become a lot more tougher. So.
Yeah. I mean, Ben's even put Goulston, another team that would probably argue against. I think
with me the conversation as well. They were superb last season.
Yeah, it really does depend on the criteria that you are going to have to meet, doesn't it? I suppose that's the big thing that we're now going to be looking forward to. It's, we put up on screen a few moments ago. It doesn't necessarily have to be the on-field stuff that's the big thing. It's everything that goes on around the club as well that could potentially get you up. It's a number of different factors, but we're going to need to see the finer details before anything like that can be potentially made. But I think we're probably, I don't know if you agree as well, Shane. I think what Adam said earlier and what I kind of reiterated was the league does need some kind of shake-up in some way or form, some way, shape or form, because I don't know if you feel the same or if you're just kind of itching to get back, but just to see the same teams again for a third season in a row is just a bit okay.
I think the difficult thing with furlough none, and it's there's something we're just going to touch on. We talk about clubs and the fashionable clubs out there, maybe budgets, and there's always clubs that go through a phase of investment and push them on. So if it's going to level out, I'd like to see Stowmarket move up, maybe Wroxham move up, and see these clubs moving into the next level. So it will make it more competitive, but there'll always be a club coming through the ranks that will push on, and that's nothing I'm holding back. I'd love to see clubs, especially Suffolk clubs, do well. So for me, I'd love to see Stowmarket in the next level up. I just was coming back on your point that don't always think that they always are going to be the best team. They know they have to work to get that now, and I've seen other clubs develop, such as Wroxham, Norwich United, Goulston, as they say, who are becoming strong clubs. And there's other clubs in the furlough none one who are going to come through the next couple of years. Marbartons, Ipswich Wanderers, Yarmouth, they're big clubs there that once they come through, they'll give us another headache. So you get rid of Stowmarket, you'll have another club with the same sort of quality. So we do expect that.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
by no means did I see a lot of Div 1 football last year, but when I went to see Mill Barton, goodness me, I thought they could knock a fair few Prem sides off the park.
Yeah, they were very impressive, have to admit.
Like,
Incredibly impressive.
there's a lot of legitimacy in what you're saying there. I think the league will naturally, you'll see a lot of teams come through and even through promotion do well.
Yeah,
at that level.
But it does depend on what the restructure looks like, how many teams are going to be allowed to go up into each level of the game. We'll see over the next coming weeks. But I'm just glad it's being talked about and something that's at least being looked into. I mean, Stephen put on here earlier on in the chat, to do this would involve courage. This is not this is it, not a commodity that they've displayed so far. So Stephen still remains a little bit skeptical on that. Dean agrees with Stephen on there. Dan has said there will definitely be a restructure, but as always with the FA, there will be winners and there will be losers, which is sadly very, very true. Spencer, random question. When are you doing your next watch along? Tomorrow night, Spencer, we are doing the Colchester versus Harrogate Town games. If you're interested in that, join us tomorrow night. Stephen has put, you could over promote and then increase relegation slots in the subsequent seasons, which is another possibility. We'll see what kind of things are suggested. Dan's put, there are rough provisions on the non-league matters. I'll have to check that out later tonight. We'll have something prepared for next week for you guys. Shem said, no pressure, Shane. Tonight you're up against Oprah and the Royals. Like I said, everyone just put it on. Everyone just said it to record. Don't worry about it. Dean, I love this guy. Another honest man who wears his heart on his sleeve. We've put record on the other show. I'm watching the best one. Yes, mate. Absolutely love that. Lau says, can we promote Great Yarmouth to the Furlough None Premier? I think we all know reason why Stowmarket want Yarmouth away. What a day out. Mole Barton being a quality side. Yes, so that is the one piece. That is the one piece of news that we have regarding that. We'll kind of keep you guys in the loop about when we do hear things. There's been a lot of rumors and talk this week about the SIL as well. A lot of mixed messages coming through from different sources that myself and Adam have got from the league. It's been a bit confusing to kind of understand what exactly is happening. But the latest that I have heard is that if I put up some of the rumors that we've had throughout this week, has been ridiculous this week.
This section. We'll have a little rumor mill section every week.
The only reason why I've put and titled it as rumor mill is because, like, I haven't had one definitive answer. I've had so many people send me messages saying I'm in the know. I know someone who knows someone, or I know somebody who's connected with this, and they've told me X. So here are some of the suggestions and things I've seen.
Do every week that people just send us their rumors and we read them out once a week.
That could be carnage, though. So some of the proposals that we've been sent are that the league is going to be starting the beginning of April and finishing the end of June. Midweek fixtures will be required to finish the season. However, there are ground stipulations and various other factors which may come into play on here, but apparently that is something that's being considered. The other one is that the SIL season is just going to be null and void, just as simple as that. All clubs have to vote on null and void current season to be completed by Friday. So that's something that is that came out before we went live. Friendly season starting the 10th of April for a 6-week period. However, it's going to be organised by the league and not between individual clubs. You kind of have to nominate yourself as being available for friendlies, and the league will organise between them. And the county cups will be continuing and leagues to be scrapped. So many different rumours, so many different things that we've been sent throughout the week. A lot of mixed messaging, but by the sounds of things, I think the most accurate thing is that on Friday we should know what decision has been made, and then hopefully
the county league voted tonight, and they've null and voided theirs. Is that interesting one? So to get indications of what's happening around, I think the Essex Senior voided already as well.
I think Norfolk FA did as well, didn't they? They've said they're going to continue with their cups, but the leagues are done. So
I don't think, I think it's pretty obvious where we're going.
Yeah, definitely.
It's unfortunate because loads of people just want to try and play some football, but it's obvious that a season wouldn't really be able to be completed. But I do hope that some friendlies can be organised in whatever capacity. I know if they use the word friendly season, I don't know what that means. Like,
Yeah.
Whatever duration, you can just play football whenever you want if it's friendly, can't you?
I don't know. Who knows, mate? Who knows? Tony said 3 and 5. SIL is null and void, cup only. See, this is a thing. People are saying this is definite fact. And
Yeah.
this is all I've had all week.
That's what I've been told quite firmly as well.
Yeah. So I don't know. No, in the FA there will be null and void. Results to come not yet decided till votes are up and counted. And Dean just simply said no bollocks. There we go. Right. Let's get into tonight's show with Shane. First of all, Shane, before we get too far into the nitty gritties of what's going on with you at the moment, Witten, and all that kind of stuff like that. For those who don't know, kind of explain your journey into football, how you kind of found yourself in non-league football. Where did it all begin, and what roles you've had, and how you got to the point that you're at now? It kind of gives a bit of a backstory.
Okay, well, I always lived in Ipswich, so started my football career as a young 16-year-old. This is adult football. I played for Suffolk County schools and always been interested in football. Started playing for Mendlesham many years ago because my chap across the road worked for Taylor Barnard, who were the sponsors of Mendlesham in 1988, whatever it was. Yes, 1988. Went on to play for Tattenstone. And there's a funny story, this little bit. So I played for Tattenstone, and my friend's dad owned a company who his secretary was Clacton Town's secretary, and they said, "God, you've got to see this guy play. He's won loads of goals." And I thought I was this little hotshot striker at the age of 18 years old, and went over to Tattenstone. I'm only 5'7", and I think over to Clacton. Sorry, and Tony Hall, who's played for Ipswich, was the striker at Clacton then. Went over there in a friendly game and jumped up and scored a goal. All 5'7" of me, we won 1-0, and they offered me a contract. And they said, "Who do you play for?" I said, "Tat." They thought I said Town, and offered me this great contract. And that way. So that was a great start to my football career. Absolutely way into a 50, 30, 40 pound a week game at Clacton. And played, like I said, played there with Tony Hall. He was a striker up front. And I can't remember who the manager was then. That was one of their centenary years some time ago. But it was a bit of a ball ache getting to Clacton, to be honest with you. Teams, cracked out at this. Went on from there to play at Brantham under Keith Norton. Had a couple of good seasons there. And I think I was around about 2021. That was long before I found drink and alcohol and girls and all those things that take you down the path. And after that, I went and played for Ransoms. And a good friend of mine who was a manager there was Graham Bradlaugh, and he used to have to. I'll tell you a story. There's this young guy called Alan Ditcham, who's a great advocate of the SIL, scored loads of goals and had a great career at the SIL. And Glenn used to have to look at us both on a Saturday and see which one was most drunk, to see which one he was going to play. So that was sort of how my football career went from after that, was how pissed I was as who I used to play for. So had a good few seasons with Glenn, played for Cranes after that. And yeah, that was sort of how my playing career was over a period of about, 10, 12 years. And then I was blessed with a son, Alfie, who loved football from the minute he was born. And that sort of changed. I don't know, guys, when you have children, we've got a son and he loves football, and it sort of got me so involved in football. And I mentioned Glenn earlier, but his son's side was over at Ransoms, and they had a great football team over there. And Danny Barber had a great football team over there. A lot of these players have all gone on to play for Ipswich within his youth team. And I took my son's team under nines over to Ransoms, and that was sort of where my coaching career began. And over at Ransoms, we had this great football team, as Danny Barber's team did and Glenn Bradlaugh's team did. We had this great reputation of youth football over at Ransoms Football Club. And that's where it all began. And then I actually got into the first senior management role, was with Glenn Bradlaugh over at Ipswich Athletic in the SIL in about 1990. I was assistant then. And that's where my management career really began as senior. But I was learning the ropes and done my FA badges, and with some great coaches and some great people to develop my ability and my coaching skills. and tried to transfer them into adult football. And I did struggle at first between the adult and the youth coaching element. But for those people who don't know me, I have had a very long career of learning, and that's not a bad thing to say that. I've worked with some great people who have taught me a lot, and I was assistant manager to Glenn Bradlow, as I mentioned. I then done the youth football, and then I was assistant manager, as we know, to Rick Andrews at Stowmarket, and then I got the opportunity to run Witten. So my journey has not been given to me on a plate. I've done my donkey work, and I think I've chatted to you guys before. The great thing about football is the camaraderie, the meeting of people, the friendship you make, and the success of being a good manager is, one, you've got to get on with people, but two, you need to know players. And, that's the journey I've got. I've gone from youth to men, and I've tended to get on with a lot of people. I met some great friends along the way, and it helps when you step into management, because then they become your success or your failure based on who and what you know. So, that's sort of my journey of me as a footballer into management.
You've done that classic thing of going out of playing pretty regular football to looking after a kids team, then youth football. How difficult was that, from the passion of being on a pitch to trying to do youth football management, where it all has to be a little bit toned down? And how did you find that?
I was the worst youth manager you could ever see. I was that terrible dad who's turned into a manager who was shouting at the kids, and I was awful, absolutely awful. The first 2 years of youth, I should have got chucked out of the league and been suspended from youth management forever. I was absolutely awful, but I did learn from that, because my son would get in the car and he'd be crying on the way home. He just had a game, he scored a hattie, and I'm mad at him because he hadn't took another chance. And I was awful. I was a terrible manager. But there was this one story, and you talk about transferring it over. I think we're under 11s Ransom's youth team, and we've gone to play Stanway Rovers in a cup final. And at half time, we're 1-0 down. And my son said something to me. Remember, these are only under 11s. And I chucked a football boot at the wall. It's so bad. I get suspended for that. I chucked the football boot against the wall and used a few expletives. Anyway, they 1-0 down. They went out and won 2-1. When we came back in,
it worked.
Their parents, they went, "What happened at half time?" They go, but the moral of that story is them young boys, they laugh forever about it. They said, "We're glad you were that way, because that really comes up. I'm not sure you'd get away with that in today's FA environment." But that was an answer to how I stepped over. I didn't step over. That was the problem. But that was the first part of that journey, which was very difficult.
So literally someone that was still trying to kick every ball despite actually being in charge.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very blessed. I had a really good youth team. Ransom's had a great reputation at that time of being one of the best youth development teams in Ipswich. And I said that started with Glenn's team and then Danny Barber's team. And they had a rule that was 2-year gaps between each. So we didn't have it every year. So it was an under 14s, then under 12s, and under 10s. And there was almost like a 2-year gap. And the reason for that is they wanted every 2 years development to go into the first team. And Ransoms were a good SIL senior team at that stage, and some players playing for them. And the philosophy behind that was spot on. And that's sort of the philosophy we were going for. And the talent as we had as a collective, as a club, was fantastic. And I could probably run off sort of a dozen players who have gone off and played. They're not playing further none now. They've gone off and they had good academy careers. And that was a good benchmark for me to get involved in football and youth football. The journey changed after that, because we got to about under 12s and the team was so good. So 6 of them went off to academies, and where that journey would change is that I was the manager. My son went to an academy, and so did 4 other players. And really, most dads at that phase would have gone off with the academy, because it's very committable. Academy football, you go 3 times a week during the week, and Sunday games, which was fortunate because we played Saturdays. I kept involved with Ransoms and being the manager there, and I actually found it very humbling, and I felt I changed as a manager. When my son went to play academy football, I carried on being a youth team manager, and then I carried on. You asked how I changed. That's sort of how I changed, really, because my son wasn't there anymore. So these children now, I was coaching them, instead of maybe I was coaching them before at the anger of my own son because I wanted him to be better. So that's sort of how I changed from it. And I was blessed to have a good group of players who paid me back and gave me a great youth career right up until we went into men's football. Yeah.
We've had, like, over the last few weeks, we've had a lot of questions on the show. I don't know which ones you've tuned into, really about learning in football, and that education about becoming a coach and really how you grow into the role. Like, when you reflect back on that time when you started with Glenn, how would you say you were learning? Like, was it just purely an experience-based game-by-game thing, or did it take you something else to keep picking up the role and keep learning? You know, what were you doing to further yourself as such?
Well, at that stage, Glenn had a young son called Tom, who was very talented as well. Tom Bradlaugh plays for me, as you both know.
Yeah.
And so Glenn was a few years ahead of me, so he gave me some tidbits on how to develop a son who's got some talent and how to manage that mentally, because it can be quite difficult how you show support and aggression in the same way. And I found it a lot easier to coach and mentor other players, and it was very difficult to mentor my own son. So he sometimes got the wrath of it, and that was a very difficult way to manage. And that's sort of how it all. Glenn taught me a few things technically, because he was obviously my manager, and we were good friends, so he used to take a piss out of me quite a lot. But when we went into the coaching element, I'd done my badges nice and early and got involved in the development. And I started taking more of an interest when my son left the team. And I'm sure there's a lot of young youth coach dad type guys who would probably understand that point of when they're looking after their son or son's team. It becomes very difficult. How do you focus? And I'll give you a great example. I actually coached IVR youth for my second son. I used and I was awful with him too. And it just found out that I was actually not very good coaching my own children, but I was brilliant at coaching other people's children. So my poor children don't want to play for me anymore, nor do they speak to me anymore. That's just what it is. But yeah, Glenn taught me a lot, and I know he'll be listening tonight. And he took me on the journey, and I have to thank him. He put me on the pedal to move on to where I've got to today.
Yeah, brilliant. Love that. What you mentioned obviously about the journey you've kind of gone on from the youth football into adult side of things. What made you want to make that next step going up into the adult side of things? Because you've done your trade and you were learning kind of on the job doing the youth football. Was there just a point where you wanted to take that next step and going into the adult game?
Like I said, when I talk about these youth teams, the Ransoms teams were very successful. I took that Ransoms team over to Ipswich Athletic because that's where Glenn was managing, and I wanted the kids to come with me. And I was so blessed with such. Not only when we had the Ransoms team was successful, the Ipswich Athletic team became successful as well, and their success was giving me quite an uplift. So it was making me feel very. It was rewarding. These kids. My son wasn't involved. All these other children and parents who would. Supported and enjoyed it, and we had lots of success. And I remember taking the Ipswich Athletic under-16 team over to Felixstowe because I was hoping to get into an under-18 setup. And we went over to Felixstowe, and our under-16s beat their under-18s 3-1, and they were really upset about it, if I'm brutally honest. And without going too in depth, we were the best team out there at that stage, and they should have took us on. They never did. And we ended up going on to Stowmarket Town, who accepted our under-16s, incorporated with the Stowmarket boys. And that was where my adult journey sort of changed a little bit, because obviously I was the under-18 manager over at Stowmarket after meeting with Rick and the board. And then after that, for my sins, I used the same great under-18 group for the reserves team. So I became not the under-18 manager. I was the reserve team manager instantly. And Alex, who's obviously a good friend of the show, he was in goal for me at the stage. And this was sort of my journey into men's football. I had probably 8 brilliant under-18 players, and I had 8 guys who were experienced and brought something to the team. That was where my journey sort of started into men's football, really. The journey of that was caused really because the group of youngsters was so good. I would have felt like I hadn't finished my journey had I not got them into an adequate level of football that I knew they were good enough for. So that was my reason for it at the time.
Yeah, love that. Love that. We've sorry, we just had a couple. I've had a couple of DMs coming through for me, so I'm just I'm trying to get those sort of questions all lined up and ready and ready for the show later on. So obviously, that's your first step into the adult game, so to speak. How did then the assistant role for the first team come about, and was there any sort of hesitation of, you know, you're in control of the reserve side, you're the number one guy, to then going to being a number two again? Was there any part of you that thought, actually, I'm quite enjoying being the person making the decisions, being the one in control and sort of dictating how my team plays?
Well, I suppose I was quite lucky, because when you're a youth team manager and you go into men's football, obviously on a youth team level, I'm the first team, I'm the first choice, I'm the main guy.
Yeah.
Then go to men's football in the number two, you get the best of both worlds. So I can be the main man manager on a Sunday, but on a Saturday I'm the number two. I'm learning from those around me.
Right.
And obviously, being a reserve team manager is very difficult, and you have to have quite a good bond with your first team manager if you're a reserve team manager.
Yeah.
So I had a great relationship with Rick Andrews. I knew him from the local area where I live. You know, I play Sunday football for the Smock. Rick's from the Smock area. You know, Rick's same generation. He's a few years older than me, and he won't mind me saying that. And so I knew him quite well. And going over to Stowmarket, running the reserves, we'd be in dialogue regularly. And I just wanted to move up into first team football, and he could see the development of youth. And one of the biggest buzzes I got, and I've got to say this is the biggest buzz I got out of being a manager, was how many young players I got to play either academy football or first team football at Furlough None now. And those people, or parents or players, know that one of my biggest buzzes is seeing them develop from being a guy playing in the under 18s to playing first team football. And Rick saw that. We had like young Danny Lyons, Ryan Rampley, these were coming through into playing for Stowmarket's first team. I think we had 6 or 7 Ranson as well. I can't remember all their names off the top. But these were young boys playing in the under 18s reserves that had gone to first team. So Rick could see that I was developing players long before budgets were out at Stowmarket. And then he said, well, let's get together. And, you know, the rest is history. We had 2 years together. In the second year, we got promotion. Then I got the job at Wern, and then I got promotion there. So I had a great few years, but I'd worked hard to get to that point.
You can tell that you're quite passionate all the way through, even till now, about player development and seeing people reach their best as such. But in terms of like in youth football and then in adult football, where do you think that was the most exciting? Was it seeing the young players get those opportunities to go into academies, or is it in adult football the excitement of seeing the absolute best come of players and maybe then move on to sort of move and play at higher levels?
Well, I've sort of had a double-edged sword for that, because at the very beginning as a youth team manager, I saw these guys go to academy. Suffolk, God bless. When I talk about Ranson's being one of the best youth teams, Woodbridge were winning all the trophies. And they were the biggest boys in the team. They won all the trophies, but not many of them moved on to the next level. There's 3 or 4 I could probably name. When I look at the teams I had, they were very technical. We didn't win the trophies, but we had the best technical players. And I look at how they developed on. So in first part of your question, yeah, I loved the way that I felt. We might have not won the trophy, but these players went on to better things. So as a coach, I've delivered what I can. I've given them the best opportunity to play at that age group. Then we move up to men's football, and I got a buzz out of getting the reserve players into the first team. And if I look at players now, I went to watch Terry, who got the reserves job after me. He was in a cup final at Colchester United for Stowmarket's reserves, and they played Woodbridge reserves. And there was a young lad there who played, and his name was Josh Hitter. And I watched him. He was fantastic. He moved the ball around well, and I just saw the way he dictated it. And as soon as I got the Whitton job in the summer, I nabbed him straight away. He was my first ever signing for Whitton United, Josh Hitter. He's got so much about the boy. He's got a good attitude. He's got an arsey attitude, which you need in that way. And his technical ability was spot on. He was my first signing. He's now at Leicester, and I see that young boy will go on and on if his head's right. And I suppose another good thing we talk about youth development players, I try to tell people the truth. Don't bullshit. And I can tell you now, and I'm going to say this tonight, there's so many managers out there who will say bullshit to say that sign a player because they don't even know who they are. And that what I'm getting at is there's players who have gone to Britain And I said, don't go, you're not ready. And they go and they come back, and they go to another club. Because my son is in the similar age to them, I treat a lot of my younger players as if they're my son, and I say, look, go when the time's ready. And there is a time when it's ready, and you do know if you're ready. You're the best player in the team. It's time to go. Josh Hitter was the best time to go. He was the best player for us at that time. And there's other ready, and it's not being an offensive to say it's not ready. And I'm not trying to upset anyone. It's just bide your time, because football's is a very finicky game, and you fall out of fashion very quickly. But bide your time and get into the right team. And Josh Hitter I think hit Leiston at the right time. Depends who's the manager, but and a lot of these younger players who I'm coaching or I'm discussing with now, they sometimes follow the money or the bigger club, and it's all about making sure it's right for them. And that's all I try to do. I'm very honest with everybody. I treat them as if they're my own sons, and anybody who knows me close enough will know that's true from my heart.
How are you preparing mentally then when you're signing somebody, you know, of their quality? We'll go back to Josh in a way, and you know that he was going to go on and do more. You know, if it worked out, he'd carry on progressing, which he's obviously done. Like, how do you prepare mentally for the fact that you know you're also going to lose that player that you've got in that you know is so good?
You have to have a style of football, you know. I obviously, as I said, I've gone on a learning curve, working with people like Glenn and Ricky Andrews and people like in my early part. When I took over at Witten, I knew how I wanted to win this, get promotion, and I had one way or no way, and it was the way I built it. So I signed a lot of players who got promotion with us at Stowmarket. So it was Tom Bradlaugh, Lloyd Clark, Dwayne Wright, Scott Marjoram, Remy Garrett. All these players had come and joined me at Witten. Then they were my class players. They were my spine of my team. And then I put in players like Ryan Rampley, Chrissy Williams, and we just went for goals. We'd win 5-4 or lose 6-4. We were getting goals every single week. That was my style of football. I just went, we're going to get goals. And that was naive of me. And I've learned a little bit now to be a bit more calculative and tactical and defensive. That's not who I'd rather win a game, go for it. And that's the team we signed. We got so many goals. We were top of the league for a long while, and we lost wind in the sails. We got a bit arrogant, and I didn't get tactical and started going for the 1-0 win, and we got promoted in third place in the end, because I think we got promoted so early. We went on the piss and got absolutely mashed up. The last 5 games, everyone was absolutely useless every single week, but we knew we got promoted, but that was the good thing. So in answer to your question, we always build to carry on building. So behind Josh Hitter, I've got another Josh Hitter in the background, maybe an under-18 player. And I watch a lot of under-18 football, especially for Witten, obviously, and whoever they're playing. My younger son, Freddie, who's 16, he plays for Witten now. So I've always had a tap on youth football, and I have done. So I've been involved since Stowmarket now, 6-7 years, and I've still watched under-18 games for the last 6 or 7 years. So I always keep tabs on the best young talent who I think we might be able to poach to get into Whitland, which is a tough task sometimes.
How important is that to keep an update about what's going on at the younger age groups? Because I remember having a conversation with Paul Granger a couple of months ago, and he said the amount of people that just don't understand anything outside of first team football, particularly in the SIL level, is quite alarming. Is something that he said to me quite a few months back. As you said, you seem to have quite a good grasp on what's going on. How important for you is that knowledge to have as your kind of ammo?
I've got no choice. I manage an unfashionable club called Witten United. Our budget's very small. We've not got the money to throw at players. I can tell you one now, and it's a double-edged sword. You can have loads of money and sign the best players, and you've got to manage egos. Or you have no money, and you have to manage yourself as a person and put yourself over and sell the club. Now, Witten's a massive club, but it's unfashionable. We haven't got the best social media platform or money behind us or big committee to do those things. So we have to sell who we are as people. So keeping an eye on under-18 footballers is the key for me and my success. And I suppose I'm fortunate that my sons are one's 16, one's 23, so they're at that great age where you can watch them play and still keep the tabs on other players. But that side, if I don't watch youth football, I can't afford to go and sign Matt Blake. I'd love to get Matt Blake in my team, but I haven't got the to go and sign him. And that is the difference in local football. I mean, I'd like to touch on it in a little while, but we'll go away from that for now. But
Sure.
It's key that youth football and development of Whitton United's youth development scheme, and it's ensuring, and I've been blessed with a lot of positive comments from parents of 20-something boys saying to me that they're thankful that I give their sons opportunity at first team level. And if you've looked at my squads over the last couple of years, they've a majority of them will be under 21, and they've been successful considering the budget, considering the difficulty of the league now and the quality that's in there, and we still keep producing good players. And you know, Josh Hitt was just one of the players. You know, we had Ethan Collins, who used to play for me as a youth player, who went to Norwich, who came back and played for us, who's now gone on to Leiston. You know, the youth team I've got at the minute, I've got Josh Hubert, who's absolutely fantastic. You know, the Wales brothers are fantastic. These are how are they playing for me at Whitton? They could go to a bigger club, but they seem to play with them. They play with passion. They believe in me, and they believe in the club. And I've got something from them that I can only be thankful for them all to coming over to Whitton and giving the best. And I have to say, finishing last year was probably the best squad I've ever put together in my entire coaching career. So long may that continue.
Wow. I was about to say that it's quite a difficult pick. Obviously, you've probably got your heart in a lot of squads that you've actually built, having helped. Obviously, if we include like Stowmarket's promotion and Whitton's promotion and that, if you look back at all the seasons, but from what I know, when I look back at the squad that you had last year, I'd have to say that must be the best squad that you've had, like that you've built with a mix of younger players, some experienced heads in there. You know, you've got everything from sort of you got like Midas all the way up to Kevin Ingles, haven't you? Really?
Yeah. Well, you know, you've nailed it on the head there. You know, you look at young Midas, who's an absolute talent, scored a great goal in that cup, which everyone talked about. But the boy's got more than that. He's still got things to learn, but he's coming through fantastic. He's got great parents who guide him through. As we know, his brother playing over at Felix as well. They're great guys. And you look at people like Kevin Ingles, guys. When's he going to stop? The guy just keeps on rolling through, and I know his legs are getting tired now, but Kevin Ingles, Dwayne Wright, Tom Bradlaugh, these guys are legends at the club. Scott Mardrum, they're all guys who have got so much experience, but they've got a little bit more about them as well in terms of their personality. And I think to work with a group of players like that, they've got to have something inside them, which is they want to be tutors, they want to educate. And I thought taking over at Whitton, I may struggle with a few egos and characters. I found that was the opposite. They actually embraced that I had the enthusiasm I had. They embraced that we were trying to do something successful for Whitton United, and they helped me nurture some of the younger players. And I was blessed with that. And you know, I'm probably 2 years has probably finished off a few careers with poor old Dwayne and Kevy and even Tom. They're getting to, you know, they've missed 2 good years of football now for this lockdown stuff, which is disappointing for me because I was getting them back to their fully fitness. And like you said, the best squad I put together. And the way we finished, you know, our last game was against Woodbridge. You know, we were super strong that day, and would love to have seen what we'd have done from there onwards.
Yeah, I just want to ask, you know, obviously you've mentioned about the youth football and why it's so important to you, why it's important to the club, and why it's kind of fundamental to what you want to do moving forward. One of the aspects of managing a younger squad or having a bunch of younger players in and amongst the team and being on top of what's going on at that level of football is you're not only dealing with the player, you're dealing with the whole package that comes with that player, which ultimately is parents, guardians, whatever the case may be. What's it like handling that side of the game as well? Because it's all well and good having that conversation with the player, but ultimately the kind of people that they listen to are their parents. They're the ones who guide them through making that decision about whether or not they come to your club or not. How do you kind of deal with that side of things? Because that is obviously something that you've got to kind of get to grips on. And you mentioned yourself what you were like as a parent watching your kids play. You know what it's like, and you know how heated and passionate these people get.
Well, as you said, I'll probably roll it back right down to the youth team. I remember, as I said to you earlier, once my son left the team, it made me a better person as a coach and manager, and I guided people.
Yeah.
I remember one parent coming up to me and asking me if I would give her son some advice on his homework. And I went, not sure where she was coming from. And she went, "You're the only guy he listens to." Now, he had a mum and dad. It's not, I wasn't, you know. He would only listen to me. And she said, "If you tell him to do his homework, he'll do his homework." And I had to give him a lecture about doing his homework. And it sort of where it started. But then there'd be other parents, you know. So the way I done it in a reverse psychology is my son would be playing, and he was one of the best players in the youth team. But I'd pull him off, and I'd make sure he was the first one subbed, and probably treat him harder than everybody else. But it gained the respect of other parents. And you'd get a few parents who didn't believe in the philosophy of going on, and it made it very difficult. And I have to say, moving into men's football, because a lot of my players are younger players, it had a lot of parent involvement. And I would say, oh, good old Josh, yeah, it's a good lad, thanks for that. I would say that some of these parents ask my advice, and some neglect it. And those who know me close enough, I will only do the best for their son. I don't do the best for Shane Cauldron, I tell you that. The best is for Wigan United to do the best they can, and the best for their son, because I will get as much fulfilment of seeing one of my players move on and play top level football than I do being an egotistical manager trying to get success for myself. And I've been in the game so long now, it's not all about me, it's about development. And Christ, yes, I want to enjoy it. Yes, I want to be successful, or else I'll get the sack. But if you start with the right ethos on developing players, the good thing about that, they always come back. And I've never had they leave me in a negative format. They've gone on to better clubs or bigger money. But when they've had enough of that, they come back, saying, "Chance we can get back." And I've 4 or 5 different players have left me and come back because they knew it was better, and they did wish they had listened to me in first instance. And that's not a derogatory statement, and I know everything about football because I'm far from it. But I know when players are ready to move on, and I listen to what the other managers are saying to them, and sometimes it's money-led, and I'm saying to you, you'll get the money in due course, and if you're good, you will bankroll it all day long. And there's 3 or 4 players who have proven that, and I've got 3 or 4 players in my team now without a shadow of a doubt. One season with me, one more season with me at the level they were at before. I can probably name 4 players now who will jump 2 steps without a shadow of a doubt. They just needed confidence boosting, they needed playing in the right position, and they needed playing in the right environment with encouragement, and they will go on to do better things. They just got carried away in first instance by parent power and the exuberance and excitement of a bigger club.
Yeah. You said back there that you don't do what's right for Shane at one point. Just picking up on that, does it all catch up with you a bit sometimes? Because you sound like you're so involved in it and so passionate about it, and obviously you want the boys to do the best they can. You feel that, and I've seen that. Like, well, you manage from the sideline with passion.
Yeah, well,
you know, you can hear.
I'd be lying if I said if it didn't affect me. Last year I went on a losing streak of I didn't win a game in 10, and you become very flat. You lose belief in yourself. It can become very depressing. You become very lonely. Sarcastic comments from maybe spectators or people around you, and it's a very difficult place to be. And whether you like it or not, there's not many people there to support you. And the mental element of that is very tough. And whilst I can show you all my passion and energy and, I'm excitement about football, there's the dark days too where there's no one there and you're reading the Instagram or Twitter posts about how crap you've done or you got turned over and people keep milking that. And it's a dark place to be. And maybe the key to that is maybe making the most of the good times. And it's happening both seasons really. And, the good times and the bad comes quite quickly. And, football for me has been my sanity. Most of you know I lost my wife 3 years ago whilst in my first year as being Wigan manager. And football was the only thing that got me through that heartache, if I'm honest. And the Wigan community and the people, and not just the Wigan community, but the football community. I must have got over 1,000 texts or messages from different people who I never even met before, who were involved with football. And it was such an uplifting thing. And the guys not behind my back, but without me knowing, raised a load of money for the charity for my late wife and all these things. And all of a sudden you think, shit, there's a lot more out there than you realise. There's a lot more people who've got your back or they care for you. And I didn't know that. And I felt very alone and very lonely. But football brought me back to energy. And then when you start losing again a year later and you think, shit, I'm going back down that path again where I feel negative and lost and there's no one there for me. All of a sudden you hit a big win again and you think, Christ, I'm going to do this again. I can do it. You've got to believe in yourself. It's them dark days that are hard to find. And any manager, I'm sure will agree with me, has been on them dark roads. Mr. Lambert's been on them dark roads and he's now long on. But, it's a dark place when you're on your own and you need a lot of support. And obviously back in the day, my wife was my support. I'd go home and kick the cat and make her sulk all night because I'd be a miserable bastard and she would have to put up my old grumpy old face. And then when she I had no one to go back and moan at. So the cat just got a kick as usual, and that was then you maybe drink a few more tins of beer instead. But football's a very emotional roller coaster journey from success. But if you keep yourself in the middle and you keep doing what you think's right, you'll get through it and you'll be successful, I believe. And I don't judge success on trophies. I judge my success on seeing what I've achieved in player development and growing a club and people believing and all that around me. And I'm blessed to have 4 beautiful children that I think I've brought in the right world. And my philosophy for them is what I take into football.
It's hard, isn't it? Because obviously football's your coping mechanism. And when your coping mechanism's not making you feel great because it's not all going brilliantly, what were you using to like pick yourself up at those times? Like obviously, like you've been really clear about how much football was the one thing that got you through what was undoubtedly the hardest time for you and that community. And I know I've spoken to you about it previously. So when it's not going right, is there something else that you're like? Is it still the people within that, and is it that keeps you going and the friends that you make along the way?
Well, I have to say, I was fortunate, I think, to take on Witten at the time. I'd started in the April, May, whatever it was, starting to sign players, and I lost Zoe in the January, and it was fucking hard work. I lost Zoe on a Friday night, and we had a game on a Saturday, and I told Notty, who was my assistant at the time, to carry on with the game, and they carried on. And I said to him, "Can you get me 1 goal for every one of my kids?" And we beat. I can't remember what it was at the time. I was sitting in hospital at the time, and we won 5-2. So I had 5 kids, and that's what I'd asked him, and that really uplifted me on in a weekend when I was fucking all over the place, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
It still cuts me deep now. But I asked the boys to carry on. They carried on playing, and I was desperate to get back because I just needed some sorry, get emotional. But
You're fine, man. You're fine.
Normality in my life, and come back to see the boys. That weren't when I walked back in the club like, oh, sorry to hear your news. That was, oh, we got 3 goals last week. We got this, and I walked into a football club like nothing had happened to them, and I loved that. It was the buzz I got. I walked in, Shane, last week we got on header. We done this call. We done exactly what you said, and I was like, and there was none of this. Oh, sorry to hear bad news, mate. So there was none of this dwelling. It was straight into positive, and I found ever since. So 3 years it's been now. Football's been the only thing I wake up to on a Saturday, and it's the same. Prep in the morning, you get your team sheets ready, you watch a bit of Soccer AM, you have your bacon roll, you're getting ready for football. I turn up to football, bit of banter, and we go for 90 minutes. And the banter is great, one thing is not only just the players' banter, it's the managers' banter. Because managers, I've got small man syndrome, as you know, I'm only 5'7", so I've got small man syndrome. I love a tear up and go to play like Brampton, he loves a row, right? He's the biggest person for a row all day long, loves having a scrap and a chat. But I tell you what, he's the first person to come up to you at the end of the game, shake your hand and go, oh, quality that is. He almost wants you to goad him all game. And you've got like Shitty's the same over at Newmarket. The Essex boys just want to tear everybody up anyway because they think they're on top of the world. And then one's a backwards, so they don't give a fuck what you say anyway. So, it's fucking mental, but that's the thing that I miss, and I have to say I'm missing it now as well since it's been such a long lockdown, because it's that normality in my life that I love.
I was going to say, with all of that being said, then what's the last year been like? How have you dealt with it?
I've not so struggled. I have. I feel a bit lost at the moment. I felt the energy to come back. Have I still got the same passion and desire I have? I know you can hear it in my voice, but there's a lot more to football than chatting on a chat show. It's about I've got to speak to players. Can I afford them this year? My budget going to be cut? Are these players going to want to play for less money? Are they going to want to play for me anymore? What happens if they go and sign for a bigger club? The challenge as a manager, long before you get to the season, is signing the players, and that is very draining and hard work. And some of the players, I'm blessed, want to play for Witton United anyway because the community is so strong. But it is really difficult to sign players. So in answer to your question, how tough it's been tough because one, I've had no focus to do on Saturday. I'm unsure, have I got the energy still to carry it on? Because when you go for such a long period without it, you're not sure what the part of it is missing. So at the moment, I get on the Saturday and do boring things now, whereas I'm desperate for get the Saturdays back to normal. But have I got the same enthusiasm if all of a sudden Witton said to me, you've got no money left, you've got to do it all for free? And I can do it because I don't get any money anyway. But those players get tapped up by clubs who have got more money. And we know, and we said just before, we talk about budgets, you know, it's not a level playing field. I don't care what anyone says.
No, it's not.
You look at Witton United, okay, we're an estate team in a town. The only other clubs who are out there are Ipswich Wanderers, Norwich CBS and Norwich United. Everybody else out there is a village, large village, or a town side in the further non-Prem and 1, okay? So the difficulty of that, we're never going to get a massive community of supporters to come and get us because we haven't got that catchment. That is very difficult to do. And, you know, what I'm just sort of getting at is it's hard work to know whether I'm going to be able to have that pull on players when other clubs may have a little bit of a magic time. They've got a few extra quid in the bank to pull players in. So that's, in answer to your question, how tough has it been? It's bloody tough. And I'm now thinking, how tough is this next part going to be? We're going to go all the way around till May, whatever it is. And all of a sudden I've got to do my pep talk again, say how great we are and how great I am. Please play for me. And I've got to do that hard work. And it's, can I continue to do that in circumstances which may be very difficult, especially for clubs that may not have budgets. And I'm sure Witton will be one of them because we haven't raised any money. And I know other clubs are the same. I know there's other clubs locally that haven't got a big budget. And I know that be clubs like Woodbridge and Long Melfords and that.
Yeah.
You like it or not, budget has a massive impact at further non-Prem. So
I mean, because I have to admit, and Adam will back me up on this one. The last month for me in particular, I've really struggled without having the football and without having the focus. And the amount of times I've sort of said to Adam, do you know what? Maybe we should just not do next Monday's show. I'm not really feeling it this time. And the amount of times he's had to pick me up recently and kind of get me going from one show to the next. And I know it will pass, but this particular lockdown has been really difficult. I've kind of lost a little bit of that oomph to kind of, you know, to do a show, and the show is 2 hours long, you know, on the best of times. So somebody messaged me a couple of weeks ago and said, you know, everyone's talking about the players, but, you know, the referees and the officials are going to be, you know, how many of them are going to want to come back, you know, into football next season? How many of them have just decided, actually, do you know what? It's not worth my time and effort. There's so many factors into it. And I said, I think this lockdown in particular has probably been the toughest one for everyone. So I don't know. I'm not really sure where I'm kind of going with my point, but I know exactly where you're coming from in terms of this year and how tough it's been, because I think it's kind of worn a lot of people down, especially in the past few months.
I think your point's spot on. I think your point is not only your point, but my point is probably the players as well. You know, a lot of my younger players, you know, they're mid-20s now, they're having young families, and they're probably spending good quality time with their girlfriends and their children. They're thinking, God, do I really want all that hassle of football every week for 20 quid or 10 quid and travelling all around on a Saturday when I don't get to see you anymore? So there's going to be those who are going to go, great, let's get away from the missus. I need to get away. I want to go and play football. I've had enough of her. She's making me decorating and rubbish. But it's having that first part of it. And a lot of us are in this lull at the moment because this lockdown's been tough for everybody. There's not been a lot to look forward to. The weather's shit. We're sitting inside. Christmas time, everyone's spent out on board. And now we're thinking, let's get back into football. It's the journey that's going on from that, which is going to be a bit tougher for a lot of people, understanding what is football going to give them? We can't have another season and null void. Lots of clubs are putting effort, financial commitment, and energy into getting football going, and then every 2 or 3 weeks down the line, or 2-3 months, we're null and void again. So we can't have another season like that. I'd like to see the season start earlier, personally. There's nothing stopping us now getting pre-season done in May, getting a season started towards the end of June, and maybe having a winter break, because we know there's going to be a higher influx of COVID when it comes to November, December. Maybe let's knock the January on the head. The pitches are shit anyway. And let's
very true.
Our pitches shit. And then get back to playing again. So that's how I need to say. We need to finish it this year. Everyone needs to get back to normality. It's a tough time to talk about football. There's a lot more hardship out there. People are suffering far more than worrying about football. But as a football community, we've all got to get together, and how are we going to get football sorted? I see things about the SAL starting to finish. Just finish the whole fucking lot now. Let's get back to normal, start early, and do it properly next year. We can't keep pissing around. I don't want to see false promotions or relegations this year. That's absolutely farcical. Let's do it properly next year. And if 5 get promoted from the division below, and so be it. Let's do it properly. Don't just say, oh, because you've got a great striker and you've done well this year, or you've got a ground pass and you get promoted. Let's do it properly next year. Otherwise, it makes it farcical, and it puts a mockery on all this pain we're going through. So you are right about saying, how do you feel? I feel you get a lot more energy out of my voice than I actually feel. There's a lot more darker inside of me than there is, because if I come on your show and told you how I felt, we'd all be getting tissues out and having a sulk on. That's not what it's about. It's about how we get through these dark times now, believing in each other. Your show's fantastic about bringing us all together. There's great people involved in football, whether they're past, present, youth, managers, players. We've got so much to give to football and the community. We just got to get together now and think, what's the best way we're going to get this sorted? And if that means we'll go and play Wembley singles to get promoted, then so be it. Do that, you know.
Brilliant. With that. I mean, like we speak about Saturdays all the while, but for me, it's the Tuesday nights I miss. James knows how much I love Tuesday night football. Yeah. It is the perfect break for your week of work. And I know some people see it as a drag, but it's that sort of halfway point and something to look forward to at the start of the week, and just go out and meet up with some people you only see once every other week or whatever, and just go and say hello to some different people and actually get some social interaction and some enjoyment with other people. And when you miss that over the course of a year or however long it's been now since we've been able to do it regularly, you get that feeling where it just starts to become difficult to even think how you do it. The simplest of tasks become a problem in your mind. And I know damn well that the first game that I go to, I'll be forcing myself out the door. I'm not going to want to go there at free will. Despite the fact I'm missing football, mentally, there's going to be that block of like, oh, it's just going to be a chore, or oh, I'm going to have to wear a muzzle round everywhere for goodness knows how long. And I don't know if I want to do that. I'll probably prefer to have a burger than I would wear one of them. Like, I know there'll be all of these things that will be on my mind, and that will be starting to try and block me from going to do the one thing that I want to do. But we've just got to get out there and try and enjoy it again, and try and get our own mental state better by seeing different people. Because as much as we all love our families and would always moan before that we don't get enough time to spend with them, it would be really great to see some other people as well now.
Well, yeah, I think I agree with you there. You know, Tuesday night training sometimes can be a drag, and you think, oh, in the middle of winter, I can't be bothered to go out and get freezing cold and go for the same. But Tuesday night away game or a home game playing football is a hell of a buzz. Rushing home from work, you don't even have a dinner, you're straight in. Everyone's in the room. You know, people are turning up with their suits hanging on and hanging off, and just get ready. And the banter's going, and you can't beat it under the floodlights. And we are blessed at the Furlough None that we get to enjoy that on a Tuesday night. And you get a crowd on a Tuesday, because you might get the SIL guys who watch their team on a Saturday that will come and watch Tuesday night. So you get a little different vibe in there. And you know, Fergus put in there, you know, Tuesday night win, you know, slippery pitch, a bit of a hard tackle. You know, Witten's got the reputation for that, and it will be difficult. You know, we whether I like it or not, I inherited a Witten United team that's got a great reputation long before I was involved in football. Has a long reputation as a community team that must carry on. And Tuesday nights at Witten, or any night at Witten, was always a tough place to go. The downside to that is they were probably managed a bit more by old-fashioned managers who'd like to stick it into them, whereas it's not always like I have to sign players or get the old guard back like Dwayne to come in or Marge to give me a big tackle. But I like to play football, and I think people have seen my teams. Like we said earlier, we either win handsome or we get turned over. But I like to play that way. But in the same token, if we can't give it to them aggressively in a 2-foot tackle, then they got Gobby Shane next to them to get it into their area anyway. So
before we start getting people's questions in, because they've had a load pop up during the chat, and I've got loads of DMs that have come through as well. I want to talk about Whitton United for a little bit, because it's an incredibly unique club to look at from the outside in.
Yeah.
First of all, what was the driving factor about taking that particular job? Why Whitton United? And what's it like being a part of that community? As you said, on the outskirts of Ipswich, the estate club, what's it like to be a part of?
Well, start off where you said. So, obviously, as you know, I had 2 years with Rick at Stowmarket, and in my second year, we got promotion. And the year we got promotion, whilst I had a major part of helping tactics and coaching, I was quite involved. Rick allows you, as Muzzy would agree, allows people to get involved and play a major part in it. And I was doing training and bits and pieces, help Rick find some of the players that we wanted to grow the club. When we got promotion, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel the excitement that I should have done from a club that just got promoted. And what I mean by that is not I was chuffed for Stowmarket, I was chuffed for Rick, I was chuffed for the players. But I felt, where do I go from here? It's not giving me the stimulation or excitement that I'd expect at senior football. And I thought, this is time. I'm ready. I must move on and get my own club.
Right.
And that was the driving force. So I would have stayed with Rick another year. Don't get me wrong, but I needed something for myself. I wanted to feel what maybe Rick felt on that day. Rick had grown over 5 or 6 years. I wanted to feel the same buzz. And whilst I did feel part of it, Rick never ever made me not feel part of it. I wanted it for myself. I wanted to feel the same buzz as all those guys did. And I was fortunate at the time that I actually tried to get a Whitton job, and they'd give it to Stevie J, which was a bad choice I felt for them at the time. And they come back for me. Notty and Robbie Knott, who's obviously a Whitton stalwart, was over there, and he'd come over at Stowmarket for a while. He was the sort of, not saying inspiration, but he was the deciding factor who got me in the front door and said, you need to get change job. And they did give me the job. And in answer to the question, it was the only job there at the time. So Suffolk furlough none clubs don't come up very often. And if there's, the manager merry-go-rounds like in Suffolk, there's a certain calibre of manager, and they go around, whether it's at step 2, 3, 4, or step 3, 4, and 5 and below. We all sort of go around. There's it's happened in the SIL, it happens in step 5. So the job came available. I think it was the right time for me, and Whitton was struggling at that time. They had tried with youth, but they hadn't obviously had the right youth. And I think coming in with the youth I knew and the experience was just a perfect time for me. So I grabbed Whitton at the right chance, and I was very lucky that we had a good first year. We got promotion in the first year, and we won the League Cup in the first year, which the club had never won before. So, that was a great achievement for me. So that's a personal goal. But outside of that, being Whitton United manager was quite a massive accolade, because I remember being assistant manager with Glenn at Ipswich Athletic, and we were in the SIL. That's how old I am. So they were playing SIL. So when I went over to be Whitton manager, I felt quite blessed, because we talk about estate teams. Ipswich is full of estates. You've got Nacton, Whitton, Chantry, Mayfield. These are estates in a town, same as you get estates in the city. And I was from Chantry, so I was quite shocked to be in their back door to get the Chantry boy into Whitton. Don't let any rascals like us in usually. And they let me in.
I used to play 5-a-side football up at Chantry. I know what that area is like.
I don't think everyone agreed with the decision at Whitton. I can tell you that at first. But I took the job on, and felt that I turned the club around the right way, and gained a bit of respect from the local Whitton people. And that was proved more so, like I said, when Zoe passed. the club got together, and people I'd never met before from Whitton. They're raising money, they're doing things. It was astronomical. I can't explain the way they made me and my family feel, and that was what I learned about Whitton. There wasn't just a football team with great history of players. Go in the bar, you've got Will Fox in there, Bramble Brothers in there, Dyers in there. You got, these are all legends of the local game, are sitting in the Whitton shed having a few beers after game, saying, "How'd you just get on, mate? You get, and I'm thinking, Christ, this is just normal football for me now, and give me tactical advice. And there's some great characters at that club as well who have been around the club for a long while, especially the vets and stuff like Connie and people like that. And I must say, Phil Pemberton, who's been at a club a long while, who does a lot behind the scenes. These are great people who have get that community club going. Unfortunately, or unfashionably, it's difficult for them to carry on taking it further without a cash injection or a bit of success. And I suppose the only thing I can give them is my energy and my hope to bring contact in to help these players come in and give the club some success. So I've gone off.
Would it be fair though, Shane, to turn around and say that the actual beauty of Whitton is the function of the club over the fashion of it? It's the way it works, the way the community and the way it comes together. It's actually the strength of it. It's not about the way it looks on the pitch and the fact the pitch has got a bit of a slope on it and the fact that the kit isn't all smart and spangly and got Nike badges all over it. It's about the community rather than those other bits. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, without a doubt. If you look at the players, you had Anton on here the other week. He lives at Whitton. He's both class player. These are Whitton boys. You look at Dwayne Wright, Lloyd Clark, Jack Baker. These are all Whitton boys up there. Kevin Ingles. I'm sure there's loads of names I'll roll off. Even Josh Hitters these are all boys from Whitton. So when you're chatting to them about signing for you, when they first say, "Can you give them 50 quid?" and you say, "Sorry, I ain't got it," but you can play for Whitton and your mum can come in for free or around the corner. It does help because we're all a committee together. And to be honest with you, I found that a blessing that I can sign players because I'm Whitton manager. And I don't think I'd have the same pull if I was managing another club in the Suffolk community, as with the lack of budget that I've got with Whitton. Because, like I said, when I came away from Stowmarket, I brought Dwayne Wright with me, Marjoram, Tom Bradlaugh, Lloyd Clark. These were players who were inspirational getting in Stowmarket promoted. And they jumped and came with me to Whitton, and I was so blessed. It's because they want to. That was where they played anyway. That wasn't nothing I'd done special. These key players have played for Whitton anyway. And you had Anton on here the other week. There's no doubt he's going to play for Whitton. There's no bullshit. He's going to finish his career at Stowmarket. That's absolute rubbish. He's going to be playing for Whitton. And if it happens next year, I wouldn't be shocked. He loves Whitton United, and so does his brother. And those boys will finish their career at Whitton United, and they both know it. I don't know what the story was going on that, but I just had to finish on that. I'm getting the season signings in early in case I've got to start playing more.
I'll tell you what. Let's get some people's questions in because I want to get some of these answered. So, over on Twitter, I had I think it's Kyle J. I'm not entirely sure who that is. He said, "Ask Shane about the Ipswich Athletic trip to Wales."
Do you know what? I'm glad he has. Carl J is actually Stevie J's son, and he's a great player. He played for me for all youth football. I think he's a player that he's spelled out. I'll tell you what, he's about 6 foot tall now. I used to dwarf him. Now he's dwarfing me. But Carl, great lad. We went to Wales on a dad's only weekend football tournament, one Pontons, and. And this player plays in the furloughed Humprem, so I'm not going to say much more. We got these 2 minibuses down there, and his dad got this Bumble app. We get the old data app, right? And if you get it within a certain distance, then women can turn up within a certain distance, right? So there's 15 boys, about 12 dads, right? There's no mums. This is just a lads and dads store. We go into the bar, we have the food, drinks. Anyway, his dad has got his app, and this bird's walked in, and she looked like grot bags. Anyway, from my area, I remember what grot bags, and she looked like on a TV program. She weren't too pretty. We've got a board for we're all single dads here. I'm having a bit of a session. He's got his bird up, and next thing he's banging her in the minibus. Down in. That's fucking mental. And the worst thing is, he got up in the morning and he wanted us as we want to go. So thank you, Carl, for that. I know these boys won't forget.
Oh, brilliant, love that.
Timestamp that. That's a clip to the highlights reel for next week.
Yeah, that's a
Nice thing is,
that's
if there's,
definitely a
not, if
highlight.
there's any more questions about tours, there's the stories of football tours. I'm a bugger for organising football tours. So we organised one to Holland for under 12s. We went to the Wales one at under 15s. I've been to Portugal with Rick, and I've been to Skegness and Margate with Ipswich Everett. And I'm not sure if there's any questions on any of them tours, but we'll have to jump back.
There is.
I thought there might be.
There is. I'm gonna bring up the Portugal one in a second, but I just want to say that Trevor Collins has tweeted me, and he said, "Send my regards to Shame. He's a top guy, but can you tell him to stop trying to sign my son Matt every time we play them?"
Oh, I love Matty Collins, right? My son used to play football with him at Bury Academy, and I love Matty Collins. And I say to him every time I see him, in front of his dad, I don't do it behind his back. But
No, I know.
I need to sign you. Matty Collins is the next big thing. He's a great kid, and he'll play for his dad. Trevor's a top guy. But I'd love Collins in my team. Would finish it. Fantastic. Love him.
So, Portugal now. Paul posted earlier on in the chat, who let the fire extinguisher off in Portugal?
Well, I'm not sure if I want to speak to... I can't remember. That was a very long day. We've been on the piss from about 4 a.m. Anybody you know, Rick Andrews, he doesn't stop the drinks coming from quietly. And we'd gone to Villamora and sat in front, and we just won promotion. That was our promotion year. People like Dwayne, I said Remy, Muzzy, myself, Leon Moore, Tom. Cool. Yeah. Well, there's loads. I can't remember those. We had a massive table of 20 people, and we got absolutely sauced up. And at Figo's bar on Villamora front, if anyone's been there, and we got absolutely sauced. Went indoors and just carried on dancing. We were getting an absolute mess. This is only about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're trolley. No one can stand up. Don't even know what happened. And next minute, I'm sure I instigated it, but I didn't press the trigger. I can only press the trigger. I'm not going to say who did, but the next minute, you've never seen anything like it. The whole place is white, and we're all covered in white. And then the bloke come upstairs and said, "What's happened?" And we went, "I don't know." A snowman. Anyway, we all nicked off. Next day, we walked on past the same thing, and the bloke come and nabbed me, and he said, "I'm going to charge you €100. You set our fire extinguisher off." I said, "I didn't," but Ozzy knew who done it, and I'm sure he's keeping quiet about it.
Did you have to pay the fine?
Yeah, I paid €100 fine. But then I the strip joint afterwards.
Brilliant. Shem has asked, what has been your favourite game as Witten manager so far?
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's a great question.
That is a fantastic question.
Love that, Shem.
Many different reasons, you know. I suppose my last game was the best game as manager when we beat Woodbridge convincingly. That was my latest positive game. But there's been a lot of them, and it's difficult because it's not always the big wins that are the best games. When we won the cup final, the League Cup final, the reason that was my best game is ironically, we're again talking about piss-ups. I sound like I'm actually drunk. I'm not. I'm just like having a good time. We'd organised an end-of-season tour because Stowmarket had done the year before. I told all the Witten boys, let's go to Portugal. And actually, Stowmarket were out there. We bumped into them. But I said, let's book the Stowmarket trip, the Witten United end-of-season tour. On a Friday night, we're going on the 4th of May, whatever it was. And we got to the League Cup final. And that was on a Friday night. And we couldn't believe it. We went, how are we supposed to be flying at 5 o'clock in the morning? How are we going to get to that? And anyway, it was ironic that wasn't on a Saturday because they kept messing around with the cup final dates. And that was at Diss Town. And we played Wickham St Margaret's or something like that. I can't remember. They called some Norfolk team and we were pony anyway. And we went over at Witten and over at Diss. Sorry, I'm spitting all the words out wrong. And we beat them 2-1, right? That was mental. There was loads of aggression, people fighting in the stands. There was all banter. It was Norfolk against Suffolk. It was all loads of shit going on. The game was dirty. It was aggressive. And we won on penalties, actually. That was what it was. We won on penalties and we went mental. We just had a real good drink, bounced around in the discharge rooms, having a great crack. Then back to the Witten shed. Then ended up coming back at 9 at 2 o'clock in the morning, jumping in the swimming pool, partying. We got a bus to pick everyone up from 5:30 from my house in Ipswich to go to the airport. This is after a cup final. People have gone home. They've not gone to bed. They've got their bags. They've gone straight from the change room to my house. We're absolutely smashed. We go on a bus ride to Stansted, and then we all get on a plane, and everyone just crashes out. So was that my favourite game? It was my favourite experience as a Wigan manager. I'm back with the cup final. So, yeah, that's my favourite game.
I can just imagine you all on like a Ryanair flight that just still stinks of deep heat from the previous night.
It did.
Deep heat and Jaeger bombs, lovely combination. Dean has put on here, and we've had another comment very similar to this line. So we've had, what is the plan for Wigan going forward over the next 2 years once we've started, and how is the club now with the loss of such a great Nelly on there? And then we've had also Matthew's put over the next 5 years. So is there an aim for the club in the kind of future that you can kind of discuss and talk about? How, I mean, has it been possible in the current climate to even think about targets and stuff like that moving forward?
Well, when I first took the job on, there was a target in place with what they expected from me, and I'm very confident in my own ability. And I said that we'd get promotion within 2 years, and we got promotion in the first year. So that was the first goal. And then every year after at a committee meeting, they will ask you what they feel, how confident I feel about the squad, and where I feel the ability of the squad is. And it's not always positive. I can look at the squad sometimes and budget and say, okay, with this budget and the squad, I might be able to lure that we're probably going to be a mid-table team. So when you look at Wigan United, it's about maybe survival. Of the third and Prem is probably our ceiling at the moment. We've not got the facility to go any further or the cash backing for that. And if we won the league, I don't think we'd be able to take up the opportunity to go next level. We just haven't got that financial support or the infrastructure behind the scenes. It's a very different, and Dean taps on air, Nelly, God bless his soul. People, there's lots of people like Nelly at the club who've been around for many years, and I'm sure there's many like-minded managers out there or club and people out there. We need to keep replenishing support and committee members, and that's very difficult. More so in these testing times where COVID's made people a bit, this null and void thing has got people fed up with the game. We talked about players, but committee members too. So, beating around the bush about what the plan is. It's about having those people at football clubs to drive it forward. It's not always the manager. And we had Mark Morsey, a great manager, the other week, talking about his players and things. I'm sure Mark will be exactly the same. It's not always his decision on some of the decisions going forward. If you haven't got the budget for the right decisions or the aspirations to take the club to the next level, that's the tougher part of it. So where we are right now, I want Wigan United to stay in a further prom without a shadow of a doubt. I'd be, if I don't improve year on year, then I'd probably consider my position. And what I mean by year is I saw the club develop in the last 3 years. All right, this year is a bit of a no-go because, we'd only played about 7 games, so it's defeated them. But I saw the club develop further. If I felt that the club had become stagnant or hadn't improved, I would resign. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean that as that I must continue to strive to take the club forward as far as I can. But I've seen many managers become stale and then they end up taking the club in the wrong direction. So what I mean by that is where we're going to go next few years, I want the club to keep on striving. And if I felt I'm not ready to continue the journey forward, I would ensure there was someone who was on the level playing field as me to take the club to the next level. So I hope that makes sense. It's not a negative. That's a positive my journey, but it might not be who's the one who's seeing a ship every time.
So it's not as if, say, for example, you finish 12th one season and then the next season you finish 14th. It's not as if we've gone back in the league. I'm done. It's the bigger picture of the club for you. That's the thing. It's the context around the whole season. It's where you're kind of moving forward towards is the big thing about what you mean in terms of stagnating, because people will instantly go, oh, well, they finished lower this season, therefore Shane's going to go. No,
you're spot on. For me, if we came 12th one year and come 14th next, but 3 boys from the under 13th, but I'd see that as development improvement. Yeah. So that I'd class that as success. That I'd seen people come through the under 16s and play first team football. I'd class that as a success. It might be great Vars run and generated loads of money for the club, or we've done something about to develop the club further. And the great thing about Wigan United, we've got girls teams, we've got So all the youth teams coming through, and there is a very close community, as I keep saying, and so that's part of the development. Now, I'm not going to be there forever. That'd be wrong, but I think what's happened wrong in the past is maybe certain managers have come in, they haven't found it successful, so they just jumped ship and disappeared. And if you disappear and leave the club behind, then all of a sudden they fall. And I've seen that what happened to Witten. They went up to the heights, then they dropped like a stone, then they went back up, dropped like a stone. And what I want to see is, we've got to sustain the position. So if I decide I've hit my limit or I want to move on, then I'd make sure there's someone ready to go into my footsteps with the same, same process as my development youth, because Witten has to rely on the youth, has to rely on the community, because community are our spectators. So the more we do to encourage youth and the people around them, the longevity of that club, and Witten's are going to stay up there, and there's so much great people coming in. I must ensure that continues.
Yeah. What would you say is like key to managing that going forward? Like getting the best players that you possibly can in, getting the community together and everything. In today's game, with how everything's going, there is a lot more money in it. We can't get away from that. But with where Witten is, what do you think is key to managing those boys and getting the best out of them week on week?
I think you have to remind everyone what it's about. And I think the thing about Witten, as we said, it's unfashionable, so it's not about it being egotistical. It's about belief and about genuineness, about football back from its grassroots level. And that's hard to try and teach kids that, because you've also got to remember a lot of players who come and play for me probably play for academy footballs, whether it's Ipswich, Colchester, Norwich, Luton, those sort of clubs, Cambridge. Yeah. They've back down through the pathway and maybe play for people like Needham Market or Sudbury through their academy systems. So you've got a lot of wounded souls as well that maybe had this aspiration to be a professional footballer, and all of a sudden they're back in the non-league game. And I tell you what, it doesn't have to take a whack on their egos for a little bit. So to make leave back where we began, and a lot of these players began at clubs like Witten or Hadley's and that, or the low grassroots football, and you have to make them remember where they came from. And we talked about earlier about parents taking them on the journey where they become self-indulged on where they're going to go, and actually it's not realistic that they're going to become a professional footballer. It's very tough, so you have to remind them to come back down to where they began. So one of the first things we talk about at Witten United is, this is a community club. This club has got your back. They're going to look after you. Everyone around you is a mate, and the camaraderie at Witten United, worse with me being at the helm because I'm a bit of a pisshead, as you know, and I take one for a drink. It's where the roots begin. We become friends first, and then don't get me wrong. When I'm in the change room giving a team talk, they're not my friends. They're my workers. We're going to work them through it. But we get in the bar afterwards. I put our arm around someone. I'll give them a hug, and we're a family. And it's just everybody knows where the lines are, and I think that's a success. For me, I want to see Witten sustain, keep developing the youth, and who knows what could happen. We could get lucky and get a Roman Abramovich to come in and buy Tooks next door and turn us into a super stadium, and be able to spend the same money as Ipswich Wanderers, then, can't I? I'd put that in there.
Brilliant, love that. I've just got a couple of more questions on here. So Ben's put thoughts on the Soham Town game in the FA Cup. I was at it supporting Witten in my town top. I got some looks from the Soham lot as I coached the youth side there. So thoughts on the Soham Town game?
I remember it clearly. We'd done well in that year. That was, I can't remember what round of the FA Cup was. I think the fourth or fifth qualifying. We'd probably my most successful run in the FA Cup campaign, and we've felt very confident. But we got injuries to both our strikers within the first half, to Jamie Cole and Jamie Eaton-Collins, and that killed us. That killed our vibe, and I think we lost 3-1 in the end.
Right.
The game started off funny because I took my son with me to the game. They wouldn't let him in because he wasn't a player, and I had a tear up with a woman on the turnstile. So that was the start of the game, and then the rest went on from there. But we played some good football, and Ethan Clark got injured that game as well. So I'd lost 3 key players in a massive game. And whilst they went on to win handsomely towards the end, if we'd have took our early chances, that'd have been something different. So yeah, it was a good game. I remember it well.
Brilliant, love that. Alex, I'm going to ask you a question in just a few moments, but I do just have a video or two to play you, Shane. So here we go. Here's the first one.
Hello, boys. Apologies about the hat. I couldn't come on with my hair how it is, but yeah, just thought I'd jump on. So massive thanks to the gaffer for being a great gaffer. I suppose I could tell a good few stories, but I think they're best saved for another day. So thank you, gaffer, for sticking by me. We've definitely had our ups and downs, maybe a bit like a love story, but hopefully we can continue that love story when all this is over. So one thing I will say is, though, ask him about some of the underwear he'd wear to the cup games. Terrible, but all the best, boys. Stay safe.
So, Shane, underwear, talk to me. Never thought I'd say those words in my life.
First of all, Dunnage, right? He's the most handsomest footballer we got. We actually use him as our model for all our. So if you want to sell any of your extra t-shirts, now you got to put Dunnage in it. He's the most handsomest footballer in the Thurlow non-prem, and everybody knows about it. He came from Sudbury. If you follow him on Instagram, Christ, he looked like a supermodel. So I got to put that banner in. I can't remember who first set the rule about FA Cup game. It might have been Ethan Clark, to be honest with you. If it weren't, it was Anton at Stowmarket. That was, you must wear women's underwear for cup games, and if you don't, you get a fine. You know, one of the fine pots. And I think we played away, and I wore these underwear, which were quite tight in the wrong areas, and we won. And I couldn't take them off because we'd won. So I wore them to every game I've had them, and my balls were chafed and all sorts of stuff. That was it. But what you get then is every week you got everyone had to pull down their trousers and show you how to wear, so you didn't pay a fine. That was not a very nice sight in the Whitton change room, I must admit. But some good banter, raised some good money for the player pot, and got the afternoon off for a funny start. Yeah,
love that. I've just got one more video to play you, Shane. Here we go.
Hello, boys. Hello, gaffer. Just a quick message. I think I meant to include some funny stories or some weird experiences we've had together, but since we've both got families, I think I better save them for another day and not to be put all over the internet. But no, I just want to say thanks for everything you do for the club. For me personally, I think the club was in a bad situation when you started, bottom or something, quite low in the first division, which is obviously a hard division to get out of. And now we're probably a solid team in the Thurlow Prem, which is not easy for anyone to do, especially on the budget you've got. But I think what we don't have in money, we make up for in character, in heart and hard work, and that sums up Whitton really, as you know. On a personal note, I want to say thanks for sticking by me throughout my injury. It's not ideal when you sign somebody from a higher level, make them your skipper, and then they get injured for a year. But obviously you stuck by me. We're hopefully coming out the other side now, and hopefully we get out of this pandemic and we start playing some proper football. Shane is a character. He's a great gaffer. He's a great bloke. Every other Saturday night I get a FaceTime call from him drunk when he's down Aurora, asking me what we could have done better, how it went. And I think that speaks volumes really, because he just cares so much, and he wants the best for everybody. That's not a trait you can buy. It's just a trait you have or you don't, and Shane definitely has it. I think that is one of the main reasons I came back to Whitton, and hopefully one of the reasons I'm there for probably until I retire, to be fair. So yeah, top man gaffer, keep doing what you're doing, keep being the crazy character you are, and I look forward to getting smashed up on some more team nights out and battering some other Suffolk teams, hopefully Wanderers if they go up. Cheers, gaffer.
There seems to be everyone that we talk about with Whitton, there is that family element to the whole entire club. Some great messages in there. How does that make you feel?
I feel very humbled, if I'm honest, from someone like Ethan, who's played for a lot bigger clubs. You know, he's a gentleman. I know his father well, and his brother. Obviously, you know, they're great people to be around, and very talented young footballers. So to hear someone like Ethan, you know, praise me in the way he has, I said it makes me feel very humbled. And I'm glad, you know, today I said it's a nice time to hear it, because as we touched on earlier, how do you feel the energy to come back sometimes? And
that's your motivation right there.
yeah, you've got it there straight away to hear someone say some kind words that to me. So that's self-motivation in itself. So, I touched on earlier, I was blessed to coach some young youth players that were talented. And I've carried on to be blessed to manage some great players at Wheaton United, and long may it continue. And, my journey has only just begun, really, if I'm honest. I'm, senior football manager, only 5 years in now. So how much more can I give and offer is going to be determined on guys like Ethan, who can determine my success and failure. And, I've got to keep a sharp eye on the development coming through. I've got to keep promoting Wheaton United as a club and what they're about. And I've got to keep on people believing on what I do as a manager, and it's developing young players. It's helping even the older players back through rehabilitation, like Ethan was saying there. He's been out a year injured, keeping his hopes up and ensuring the quality players in between come to the right club. Because, look at I've signed players, Jack Baker, Remy Garrett, they could be easily playing 2 steps above what they're playing. Come and sign for Whitman, and that's right. The people, Liam Wales, Harry Wales, Tom Bradlaugh, Joshy Hubert. The list can go on. I could sit here and go through players. I've been blessed, to coach and to continue to coach the right players, and I feel very humbled by that last message, if I'm honest, because of the state of Ethan is in local football, and maybe I don't realise how lucky I am to be in a position I am, and maybe sometimes I don't see outside of my bubble when I'm Whitton manager. I'm full on, I'm passionate, but sometimes you take a step back, and that's why I watch your show, guys. I step back, list other managers, and whether they're SIL managers or they're Isthmian League managers, whatever level it is, I'm sure we've all got the same goal and desire. But there's certain things that mean more, and like I said, that message from Ethan and Adam, it takes a step back and realise how lucky I am and privileged I am to have the position as Whitton United manager, and it will make me be more determined to succeed and give the community a lot more back.
Yeah, definitely. Adam, I know you've got a message you wanted to read out as well. Go on, mate.
Let me do a little bit of loading in. I'm nearly there. So JB sent a message over to me, obviously your coach. It's quite long, so you have to bear with me. You don't know when to stop talking. He said, evening, gentlemen. I'm going to struggle to keep this brief, which he did, with so much to say about a guy that's done a lot for me. Firstly, Shane's a proper man, big character, great man manager, and goes out of his way to keep people smiling and loving their football. That's not just his style of management in football, it's more the man he is and his personality. The reason so many players leave to play higher league football and return to play for the club is hugely due to Shane as a manager and his relationship with players. They leave knowing he's grateful for what they've given, and soon enough they often return, sometimes multiple times. Dunnage. Personally, I first spoke to Shane in late 2018. I trusted him from minute one. I've never told him this, but the fact that he wanted to see me coach properly first before agreeing anything gave me every belief in him and showed me how high the standards were that he wanted for the club, and I couldn't agree to join quick enough. He supports, trusts, listened, and believes in me, along with the players. I owe him for that. Another example of Shane being there for me is his support and warmth towards me returning to the club after a stint managing elsewhere. I don't regret the spell away from Whitton. It means that I've come back with even more experience and hopefully allow me to be more support to the gaffer. Shane has lifted Whitton United again, and as long as the club should get behind him, he'll continue to lift them further. He takes so much accountability for the results on the pitch. I have to remind him sometimes that it's a collective, including myself, staff and the players too. But again, how personally he takes is his desire to keep the club improving. That's infectious. The sooner football's back and we return to some normality, the better. Thanks, Gaffer. And he's put your little green and white flag after it.
Class. James, top lad. I met James a while ago and given the opportunity to come and coach, and he's a very gifted young coach. Got so much up here. I think in his first spell, players were unsure, and they always are with young coaches. Experienced players are unsure what they're going to deliver. And James held his own and delivered some great sessions. and the players love him. And he moved on for a little stint of his own management, and we kept the relationship. As I think you get the vibe from me. No matter whether it's a player, a manager, or a parent, I try to keep the same positive vibe. So if they want to go and try new things, of course I want them to be success. And if they don't, come back, we'll try it again, and we'll go down a different route. I've been with that all the way through, and I mentioned it earlier. We said Glenn Bradley was my manager, and Ricky Andrews gave me that faith, and then Notty got me in. I had Terry Hover as my right hand man when I was going through youth football in the latter years. These guys, and then obviously Watty's joined us recently with James. I've been blessed to be surrounded by good football people, and I listen to them as well. And they've got so much to give and educate, and you've got to keep on listening to everybody. And whether it's James, who's the young up and coming coach who can teach you something, or Ricky Andrews, or Glenn, who's the older ones who can teach you something. It's about living and learning. It doesn't matter how old you are. And I've heard this on previous chats, and when we're talking about young development coaches, it doesn't matter whether you're 20 or if you're 50, there's always something you're going to learn. No one's ever going to get it right. The generations are changing, and a management technique 20 years ago is completely different to a management technique in this day and age, because things have changed. Players have changed. I remember when I first played football, managers were effing and blinding and shouting at you. And that's sort of how my management style was at the beginning, because that's all I ever knew. And now we get into a management trait now where it's psychological. Some players you shout, players cry at games and gone out of the change room and think, oh, I'm an absolute twat. And there's some that have actually got better by shouting at them, and some you really need to take into a corner and give them a big hug. And that is something that you have to learn as you go through. And football is changing more so to the latter part of that, where players need more of a cuddle. But there's still them boys who prefer you to be a bit full on with them and teach them. So football's always evolving. There's some great skills out there to learn from the FA in terms of their coaching badges. Some things will not always roll well with players, and there's still managers out there who get players running between cones all the while, and there's coaches out there who will be developing them through tactical and in-play sessions. Football is always evolving, whether you're a manager of an under-14s or you're a step 3 manager. Football will always continue to learn. You must keep your eyes open and listen to everybody, and even the players. As Ian said there, I'd go down the pub, be pissed off, phone him up on a Saturday night, probably bit off my trolley, ask him how he thought the game went, because we must improve for the following weeks. And I try to keep that sort of friendship banter, but also a little bit disciplinarian in the same way, so I can make sure they do connect with me when I need them to connect. But also, they're my brothers and sons when I need them to, if I need there to be them for them, if that makes sense.
It's fair though, isn't it? Though psychologically, if you can't manage anybody, you'll never get the best out of them. And from sport for so long, but I think it is coming to the forefront. It's something that I've spoken to James about when I've had personal conversations with him about different things. And I think it doesn't just help you manage people, but it then helps you manage them in the game. If you can understand what they're thinking, then you can understand how you can make them change and affect a game as well.
Well, we touched on it earlier. We talked about parents' expectations. Those parents' expectations roll out to the player, and then the player will live what his parents have been telling him. Now, I've got a couple of players, I don't really want to mention their names, but they're younger players who have played higher level than what Witten United is. But the managers they go on to play under have signed them because of their name, not because of what their ability is or what their position is. They then go play at a higher level, out of position, not really enjoy it, and then tend to not be successful at it. They then come back down a level, play for Witten United in their preferred position, they thrive in that position, and then everyone's after them again. And the more of what I was trying to say to everybody earlier, in the chat earlier, was don't always leave a club too early. Wait until you go when you want to go at the right time, because bigger clubs will always snap up players from the likes of Witten, but then they'll sit them on the bench or they'll play them out of position, and then they become a little bit defeated and let down and disappointed with their career. But they're good players, but managers, and that's what I said to you before, certain managers sign them because they want the name player, but actually don't know who they are, what they play, what their best position is. And that's something that I find very frustrating when I've seen young players leave Witten and not really get the back when clubs saying, oh, he didn't really do so well. Well, he wasn't ready. Told him he wasn't ready. I told his dad he wasn't ready. Told him he wasn't ready. I told the manager who was going to sign him he wasn't ready. But they go and sign him, and then he becomes a flop. What they do, they kill people's careers. Now, what they're better off doing is saying, I'll tell you what, we'll sign him, but we'll let you have him on loan, and we'll take him from you, when we really need him. So we don't sit him on our bench for 6 weeks on the trot and bore him out, and then he gets fed up with the game. And I'll tell you what, that's the hardest thing. I have to sit and cuddle players and say, you're not a bad footballer. That manager just didn't know how to play you. And that is something that I thrive and think is one of my skills. But I've seen so many talented footballers get fed up with it and say, we're not playing anymore. We're not good enough. They are good enough. They're just the clubs they went to didn't embrace their skill or understand where they were from. And that's something that at Whitney United, the best young group of players who probably should be playing higher. I'm embracing them, and I want them all. And I tell this in the team talk. Anyone would say it. I want them all to move on higher. I don't want them to play for Whitney anymore. You play for me, do well, and you move on. And then likes of Ethan and Anton come and retire with me. We'll have a big huggle. Do you know what I mean? But that's how we're going to do.
Most frustrating thing in football for you, would you say that? People moving on too soon to the wrong clubs?
Without a shadow of a doubt. And that's parent influence.
Yeah.
I don't care that game out if your player's 16 or 26. Parent involvement, going to a more fashionable club because it's got a bigger website and it's got more, they can look smarter in the tracksuit, walk around town, and all of a sudden they're sitting on the bench and they will just be chuffed to walk around with a tracksuit.
Who doesn't have another tracksuit? Final question for the show tonight. Just very quickly, because we're approaching the 2-hour mark. What is your proudest moment as a youth manager and as senior manager?
As I said earlier, youth manager was developing the kids who went on to academies was a great achievement. However, my very last game as a youth manager was Ipswich Athletic under 16s v Woodbridge Athletic, or Woodbridge Town under 16s. And as I said earlier, Woodbridge won everything all through the years. They were these big boys, always were the big winners. And on the very last game ever at youth football, we played them in a cup final. And I said to the guys at Team Talk, this is your last ever game. They might have won a few leagues, they might have won the cup. This is the last ever youth game of football ever. So whoever win this one can take it into their adult game. Anyway, we got to 2-2 at extra time, and that was the team talk. Just remember, this is your last ever youth game, and we went on and won. And the moral of the story is, if I look back at that team, probably 80% are playing further than none, comparison to 20% with the team that won all the trophies but didn't win the last game. So there was a moral. So for me, that was the Ipswich Athletics youth team winning in that cup final. As a senior manager, probably getting promotion in my first season as Whitton manager, going there as an unknown. No one believed in me. No one thought I was good enough to do it. I didn't get the Whitton job when I first went for the first interview because I didn't think I was good enough. And I proved everybody wrong that I could do it. And my proudest moment is still being the Whitton manager.
Love that. I do just want to ask this one other question on there. Dan Barnes just said, how does it feel when Anton Clark said he wanted to finish his career at Whitton?
He'd already talked to me about it.
Right.
Well, we're going to say it here now, right? I was so upset when he got that hattie with Stowmarket against us. I've got to get it test now because Stowmarket milked it on every single week. I hope Lau's still listening, right? He must have milked that 10-0 win against us, right? Every single week for about 55 weeks. How doesn't even know it down? I'm getting depressed. He keeps showing it every single week. Anton got a hattie, right? And I'm so chuffed for him, but they've been on such a shit run, Stowmarket, up to that point. We had 6 players out, and they beat us 10-0. Great. They didn't have to milk it. Anton Clark will finish his career at Whitton sooner than probably realise. The guy is Whitton through and through. I love the guy to death. You've only got to see his brother Ethan and the same thing. Them boys will finish together, and there'll be a few more as well. And we touched on it earlier. I'm very lucky to be Whitton manager, and they tend to all come back to roost at home, and Whitton's got that pull. So I see someone like Anton and Ethan being the follow-on managers for me in due course because they've got that character, they've got that bite about them. And when we talked about earlier, if I leave the club, that will be left to someone of that ilk to be able to drive the club forward in the same passion as I feel I'm trying to do now.
Brilliant. Love that. Shane, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening. It's been a great show. I just want to get some comments of the people who have been saying about you throughout it. Ben Moore, always learning, Shane. You're a legend. Thanks for the advice. Thanks to everyone in the chat who's given me advice after lockdown. I'll come to a few games to watch on here. We've had Dean Cooper, non-league show, jogging bottoms needed for that. Love it. Yeah, there you go. There's the next one, Adam. Get the jogging bottoms on order.
Well, I'd have a pair of them, I tell you that much.
Slim's just said you're a top man. Glenn has put on here, well done, mate. You've come across a way I always knew you would do. All the best. Shem, another top guest this evening. Shane Cauldron, great show, bud, and good luck for when the new season starts. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I Adam knows I love coming to Whitton. I think I always enjoy my games down there. You know, and what you guys have done every time that myself and Adam go there and give us that perfect spot to watch the game from. I love it. Absolutely love it. So I'll definitely be coming back down once the new season, whenever that does kicks off again. Who knows?
Well, I think I'd like to say thank you to both Adam and you, James, for doing what you do. I got involved with you guys very early of your show and your start when we came and done some videos at Whitton. And for me and all the guys in the chat, we'd like to thank you what you're doing for helping promote Suffolk non-league football, what you're doing to help us with our mental health sometimes, to talk about things that maybe outside the box. And, you know, with Dean's chat the other week, for all of us, I think I'm speaking on behalf of the group, that we'd like to thank you two for what you're doing for local football. And for me, it's been and something I listen to every Monday. So thank you to you two.
No worries. We really appreciate that. Really appreciate that, Shane. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you tonight. Thanks for coming on, mate. All right, take care of yourself.
See you soon, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Right, let's get the Super Six sorted, and then we will wrap up today's show. Adam, just talk to me about the Super Six. What kind of happened this week before I bring up the league table?
So, Non-League Football Shop agreed to sponsor March's tournament. Jamie Sandland's won February, and his shirt came out to him this week. And on his timeline, you can see a picture of what he received. So that's all up there. The shirt they're providing hasn't been confirmed yet because they're not quite sure what one they're going to pull out of stock for us.
Right.
But we all scored quite well. I mean, like we've said for a long time, 3 points is like the average score.
Right.
And everyone, apart from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all but 8 entrants scored 3 points or more.
Wow.
So, like, this is quite an unheard of week. And it also saw a good portion of people score 5 points and above. We had 18 people scoring 5 points or more.
There you go. Shall we bring up the league table overall?
Yeah. Now, the reason that one of the problems I've had is I haven't been able to start a March leaderboard for the shirt competition because there are so many people competing on those points. So hopefully next week it might even out a bit. I don't know. I just want to say top performers this week are Ryan Gardner, Matt Musgrove, and Rappers, all who got 7. I know Ryan will be particularly happy. That's 2 weeks in a row that he's had 7 points.
Nice.
Although Dan Barnard's on a bit of a hot streak as well, with 9 points last week and 6 most recently. So
up to 9th, Dan. Up to 9th. Impressive stuff.
Dan has hit some form recently. So yeah, it's all going quite well at the moment. Spreads is being caught up slowly. He's still scoring at a fairly consistent rate, but there are a lot of people outscoring him now. And that wasn't the case for a long while. Ben Moore, you got 3 points. So yeah, it's been a good competitive week. So we've still got the chart put in there. Obviously, the main prize provided by our main sponsor, Atlas K9 Security. And basically, we'll be getting a much bigger overall football-related prize at the end of the season.
Yeah,
for the winner. We just can't put our finger on what that will actually be at the moment. But I can tell you now, me and James are going to have to get our backsides into gear into organising it. But it does exist. Don't worry. But yeah, we're looking good, and the first week's scoring is really encouraging for the actual March competition, because it's fair to say everyone that entered the first week is already in the mix.
Love it.
People haven't scored badly.
Love that. So the Super Six for next week has gone into the chat. So YouTube, Facebook, and also on Twitch. If you want to get involved, Here are the games you can predict the results on. So Sheffield Wednesday versus Norwich, which is actually a Sunday game, but obviously we still need everyone's predictions in by Saturday. Ipswich versus Plymouth, Oldham versus Cambridge, Southend versus Stevenage, Grimsby versus Colchester, and Kings Lynn versus Sutton. Apparently, Kings Lynn are still playing. They've been making signings this week, which is interesting considering they couldn't play a few weeks ago. But we won't dive too much into that. But they are playing against Sutton United. So I said, get your predictions in now. Make sure you don't miss out. We will put regular reminders out throughout the week to get involved in that. So if you are one of those people that can't stay till the end of the show, then we will be putting out constant reminders if you're listening to this on playback. So couple of points before we end up today's show. Just to let everybody know, tomorrow night we will be doing a live watch along of the Harrogate versus Colchester game. I'm not entirely sure if Adam's going to be joining me. However, I am going to be joined by Joel Windsor from Coddenham, who is a massive Colchester fan. He's coming on the show to do a watch along with me. So I'm really looking forward to kind of breaking down what's going on with Colchester. We talk about these local teams every single week with the Super Six now. I'm really interested to find out what is happening with these teams. And it's not just about Ipswich and Norwich, which are the big boys. Obviously, Colchester have a big bearing on non-league football and the players that come from that level. So I'm really keen to kind of look at them. So if you're around tomorrow, then please make sure you check that out. But a couple of points, podcast-wise, massive thank you. We as we tweeted out during the week, we've had over 1,000 downloads on the podcast, and considering it's not something that myself and Adam actively promote, that's incredible, absolutely incredible. So thank you so much if you're one of those people that listen to the podcast on any of those platforms. We really, really do appreciate it. Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe it when that email come through. That would
it means a lot to hit those numbers on a non-advertised platform, because we invested in it as a response to a few people asking us about it. So to see that it's valued to that extent, it's huge for us. So I don't want to overcook the egg on it, but it just means a lot to know that you're utilizing it and it's been worth the investment for us. Because it really is one of the most recent things that we've done, and it's great to know that some of you just enjoy sticking some headphones in and listening to the guests that we've had on, because I do think recently, we don't really plan what we're going to talk about with anyone that comes on.
No.
And some of the value that's been added by our guests recently, not to football, but to your own well-being and your own just value about general worth in society and things that we take for granted, and the things that people have spoken to us, has been absolutely incredible. It hasn't all just been banter and football jokes constantly.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of mindfulness stuff, a lot of really just talking about how we're getting through things at the moment. And that's where I'm proudest of us as a community, and proudest of the format that we've had to adapt from whatever it was that we were doing before, but we're still doing something which is adding to people. And I hope that you're all getting something out of it where possible. I really appreciate everyone that's contributed to the comments, come on the show to speak, and continues to contact us privately about either wanting to come on or in regards to the show. It's massively important.
The amount of people that we get during the week that drop us little bits of information, you guys should look at this, I've had this information, make sure you mention this, mention that. It's absolutely incredible, because we can't do the show without you. And I know that's a line that YouTubers and stuff like that just chuck out there, but we really mean it on this show. The show is absolutely nothing without you guys getting involved and doing what you guys do. So we just massively appreciate it. Subscriber wise has been increasing as well, which is absolutely fantastic during this time. With no football, the amount of people that still tune into this show is just remarkable. It absolutely blows my mind every single week when, you would think there's not an awful lot for people to tune in, but people are still interested, which is fantastic. And again, to the people that have signed up via Patreon recently as well, it really does mean a lot to make sure that we can continue to making those investments and those changes to the show that we want to. And ultimately, the bigger goal, as you will well know, the bigger picture is that we want to produce more content. So the more that we get from that side of things, the more we can do for other aspects of the game, like we mentioned earlier about the women's football, the reserve football. The more we can do, that for me, I just want to continue to grow. But we just, I'm in a very reflective mood over the past few weeks, and as I said, just want to say thank you to every single one of you who continues to support us, to continues to show the love and respect towards the channel, and for all the clubs, as I tweeted out earlier, who continue to promote us and talk about us and just keep the show relevant and keep it going. It's just massive thank you to that. Adam, anything you want to sign off with?
Yeah, anybody that's got a Twitch account, anyone in the chat that knows what Twitch is or has a Twitch account, go over to Twitch and just follow us to start with, and we'll talk more about how you can support the channel in there. If you've got Amazon Prime and a Twitch account, you can subscribe to us on there, and that helps the channel along. And it only costs Jeff Bezos money. It doesn't cost you anything. Amazon Prime members get 1 free subscription on Twitch per month, and that costs Jeff Bezos a $5 and helps support the show. So we'll work on that and see if there's anything that we can do there. Twitch is an absolutely fantastic platform for chat and building a community, and you'll notice that our watch-alongs will be across YouTube and Twitch going forwards. If there are any games that you want us to do a watch-along for, any sports that you want us to do a watch-along for, drop us a message and we'll just sort it out. We can do that.
Definitely. But that is where we're going to end things tonight, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, if you're watching from a YouTube perspective, remember, give the video a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and set the reminders, set the notification bell on, so that every time we go live, you are informed about it. You're not having to rely on us posting our social media posts to say we're live. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Next Monday, as I said, Furlough None Chairman coming on. Get your questions into us throughout the week. We can't wait for next week's show. But as always, until next time, thank you very much for tuning in. Adios.